He was looked down on for appearing weak, but he shocks everyone when they find out he's actually the master of the strongest hunter clan. The story begins with a group of kids as they dream of becoming treasure hunters. We learn that treasure hunters explore ruins known as vaults to obtain the riches and relics hidden inside, but they risk their lives fighting against monsters known as phantoms. We meet a boy named Cry as he heads to an interview where the strongest clan is recruiting new members. As he waits in line, a girl named Ruta introduces herself, and she notes that she has always been a solo hunter, but after having trouble with a vault called the White Wolf's Den, she decided to try and join a party. A hunter named Greg overhears them and tells her there's no way she can take on the den as a level 3 hunter. He calls her an amateur, saying she won't be able to join the first steps since it's one of the leading clans in the capital, which makes her angry, and she notes that there aren't any requirements to join the clan. She takes out her daggers and prepares to fight, but a man tells them to stop, saying if they continue to cause a disturbance, then they won't be recruited. After that, Ruta is surprised to see so many hunters, since she has never been to such a place, but Cry notes it's his 5th time. We learn that the clan is made up of a number of different parties, and Cry mentions that the Ark Brave party are the strongest ones there, saying that their 6 members were able to conquer a level 7 treasure vault. He notes that if their leader Ark accepts a hunter into their party, they're guaranteed to be successful, but he mentions that they haven't accepted a new member through one of these interviews. Ruta sees an empty table and asks Cry about it, but Greg interrupts once again, saying it's for the founder of the First Steps. He calls it the Grievers table, and Cry thinks about how the Grievers came to the capital a few years ago, but they quickly rose to power, becoming one of the most famous parties, with their official name being the Grieving Souls, and it's the party of his childhood friends. Greg notes that it's the first time the Grievers are recruiting new members in years, which is why so many hunters have gathered. A boy named Gilbert suddenly starts yelling, demanding to know where the Grievers are, revealing that he's already at level 4, but a girl named Tino interrupts him, saying he isn't needed there. She prepares to teach him a lesson, saying that she's the one who should be in the Grieving Souls, but a man stops her, since their orders are to settle things peacefully, but everyone gathers around and clears the area to see them fight. Cry tells Ruta they should go outside, not wanting to get caught up in the fight, and they start sneaking away. As the fight is about to begin, Gilbert charges up his sword, but Tino notices Cry, and she rushes to him instead. She calls him Master, and we learn that he's the leader of the Grieving Souls and the master of the First Steps. We go back to when Cry and his friends first arrived in the capital, where they complete the beginner vaults in record time. We see Cry about to be eaten by a monster, but he's saved by his friend, and they praise him for acting as bait, but in reality, he had no idea there was a monster behind him. All of them dreamed of becoming treasure hunters, but compared to his 5 friends who were insanely talented, he thinks he's just ordinary, and he knows that if he keeps following them, he will just be a burden to them. He thinks his friends are too kind to tell him he's weak, so he decides to leave the party, but when he tells them about his decision, they tell him to become their leader instead. Cry tells Ark he was late because he overslept, but Ark thinks he's joking, and Tino doesn't seem to like him. Ark thinks Cry was blending in with the hunters to assess them, but Cry notes that he really just overslept. Tino thinks Cry should kick out Ark from the clan because he's rude, and Ark asks Cry if he has found any good candidates. Cry thinks he already has enough members, but he asks Ark if he's willing to take on a new hunter. Ark mentions he trusts his judgment, saying he will take anyone that Cry picks, but it makes a girl from his party angry. Tino thinks Cry is going to recommend her, so she notes that she would rather stay with him. Gilbert causes another scene, and Cry asks him if he's with another party, but he notes it doesn't matter. He thinks Gilbert won't be an asset to him in his current state, but he might become strong if Ark's party trains him. Cry knows he has no eye for a person's talent, which means no matter who he chooses, it's all based on luck. He mentions the most important thing for a hunter is to never give up, and he tells Gilbert to show them his strength, because if he's weak, he'll put everyone around him in danger. Cry reveals after he became a hunter, he hasn't lost a fight, which shocks Gilbert, but it's really just because he hasn't had a proper fight. He takes off his ring, telling everyone that the person who retrieves it will be recommended to Ark, and as he throws the ring towards the hunters, Gilbert catches it, but Tino instantly kicks him and sends him flying. The hunters start fighting for the ring, and Cry mentions it's a relic, so he'll give the ring to the person who manages to collect it. The next day, the vice master of the first steps named Eva tells Cry he made the front page of the newspaper because of the fight that happened over the ring. He wonders if any civilians were hurt, so she tells him no, but mentions that they did get a call from the Explorers Association. He asks her what Ark thought of the news article, and she mentions he just laughed while reading it, so Cry tells her to charge the repair bill to him. Eva notes that he relies too much on Ark, and she tells him that the Explorers Association asked him to visit, so he knows if he neglects the matter, the chief will visit them instead. He mentions he can't go out since he doesn't have a bodyguard, and even his face-transforming relic is broken, but Eva tells him he won't be attacked during the day. Cry goes to the Explorers Association, where he instantly begs the Chief Gark to forgive him, and the girl beside them calms him down. She gives him a book, and Gark mentions that even though a report about the trouble he caused wasn't filed, a clan as big as the First Steps should be an example for the other hunters. Cry knows that the association receives a lot of requests, but some of them have low rewards or are extremely difficult, which makes it so that no one will accept them, and the hunters consider these requests as chores. Cry realizes Gark wants him to accept one of the missions, so he decides to do it since he owes Gark, but he mentions he didn't do anything that bad. Gark allows him to choose a mission of his liking, so Cry goes through the book and selects a level 3 request, thinking it looks like an easy rescue mission, but after he leaves, Gark is impressed, thinking he chose the most dangerous job on purpose. Cry goes to find Ark so he can give him the mission, but Tino reveals he was called away and all the other members are also busy. She shows that she ended up with his ring, and she's happy she can keep it. Cry asks her if she's free, which makes her happy, since she thinks he wants to spend time with her, but when he tells her about the mission, she instantly runs away. Cry summons a creature from his chain which retrieves her, and she mentions she thought they were going to have fun together, but he's forcing her to do a chore instead. She mentions that she's only level 4, so she can't rescue 5 people on her own, but she gets even more angry as Cry tells Gilbert and the others to accompany her. We go back 6 years, to when Cry and his friends first arrived at the association to register as a party, but Cry is scared to go inside. He thinks he will just hold everyone back, so they should just leave, but his friend Luke kicks the door open, announcing that he's the strongest swordsman in the world. He notes how Cry always told him that a true warrior doesn't need a weapon, which is why he uses a wooden sword to fight. The receptionist tells Cry to select a party name and symbol, but they haven't thought about it, so the receptionist notes that the name will reflect the spirit of their party, telling them to choose wisely. Cry decides to use the opportunity to show everyone how bad of a leader he is, so he chooses the name Grieving Souls, which everyone doesn't like, since they're supposed to be a hero party, but a name like the Grieving Souls will make them seem antisocial. Cry says he isn't cut out to be their leader, but they all change their minds and decide that they like it so that he doesn't leave them. Back in the present, Greg is still shocked that Cry is the clan master, and he realizes that Cry is a level 8 treasure hunter known as the Thousand Tricks. Gilbert refuses to believe Cry is the strongest hunter in the capital, because he doesn't even look like he trains, and Tino says she can't team up with Gilbert since he's all talk, but Cry thinks about how he's also just talk. Cry asks them if they're willing to help, but Gilbert refuses to listen to him since he doesn't acknowledge him, so Cry decides to leave him out. As Cry is about to leave, Gilbert tells him to fight him, saying that if he loses, he will join them, because he refuses to follow someone weaker than him, but Cry tells him to fight Tino, since she's their party's leader. Gilbert mentions he let his guard down when he fought her before, but he isn't going to make the same mistake, and he tells Cry he'll fight him next after he defeats Tino. Cry reveals that Tino is also a level 4 hunter, and she notes that even though she's nothing compared to Cry, she still won't lose to Gilbert. She throws away her weapons so that she won't accidentally kill him, which worries Ruta, and Greg mentions if they fight head-on, Tino won't stand a chance since she's a thief. Cry knows that even though their levels are the same, there's still a large gap in their skill, and Tino is more experienced in one-on-one fights. He thinks Gilbert's Purgatory Sword will decide the result of their fight, but Gilbert throws it away, saying he doesn't need a weapon to fight an unarmed girl. Tino notes that if she wins, Cry will get ice cream with her, and he can't resist after seeing the look on her face. As the fight begins, Tino rushes toward Gilbert, and even though he dodges her first attack, she still manages to kick him and send him flying. Gilbert refuses to give up, and he tries to punch her, but she puts him in a leg lock, saying she went easy on him. She decides to teach him a lesson so he won't disrespect Cry again, and she hits him in the back of the head, making him fall to the ground, surprising Greg and Ruta with how strong she is. Gilbert thinks about how when he was young, he was stronger than everyone around him, and after going to the capital, he joined a party, and as he kept conquering the vaults, he thought he could never be defeated. Tino mentions that if he still wants to fight, he should use his sword, but when he refuses to pick it up, she tells him he shouldn't let his pride be the death of him, which makes him realize if they were fighting seriously, he would already be dead. Cry notes that Gilbert quit his old party because the skill gap was too wide, and Cry mentions he went through the same thing with his own party, but they didn't abandon each other. Cry knows his friends were the ones who didn't abandon him, and Gilbert is shocked that even though the Grieving Souls consists of the strongest hunters in the capital, they still show mercy. Cry kicks Gilbert's sword and activates its power, which shocks him that Cry can wield the sword, because even he isn't able to summon such strong flames, but Cry was able to do it without even holding it in his hands. We learn that the substance that is said to be the foundation of the world is called mana material, and it's present everywhere but invisible to the naked eye. Treasure vaults are places created from concentrated mana material, and the White Wolf's Den is the vault, where Cry is sending Tino and the others. There was originally a wolf monster called the Silver Moon that lived there, but they were hunted to extinction, which caused a treasure vault to appear, along with the phantom of a full-blooded wolf. Cry finds the vault terrifying, but he thinks Tino and the others will be fine since they're at a similar level. Eva asks him about the Purgatory Sword, and he mentions it's such an easy relic to use that even Gilbert, who has no knowledge about how it works, can still use some of its power. He wonders if Gilbert will sell him the sword, and Eva mentions he shouldn't waste money on it since he already has similar relics, but he notes that all relics are different. She tells him he should be careful with his spending, no matter how much money he gets from the Grievers, and Cry thinks about how everyone in the Grievers gets an equal amount of money they make from hunts, even if they didn't contribute. Cry sees that he forgot to charge his relic, so he goes to a girl who charges it for him, and the man with her tells him about a stray level 3 phantom that appeared on the northern highway, where it wiped out a caravan, which was escorted by 3 level 3 guards. He mentions the phantom took the shape of a wolf, and it came from the White Wolf's Den, which worries Cry, but he tells himself that Tino and the others will be fine. They note that the phantoms are getting stronger, so there have been talks about changing their certification levels, because another party went missing a few days ago that was led by a level 5 hunter named Rudolph. Cry reads the quest again, and he realizes he forgot to read the part where it mentions the people who need to be rescued are Rudolph and 5 other level 5 hunters, and the others are shocked when Cry mentions he sent Tino to the Wolf's Den. After he leaves, he thinks they'll be fine as long as Gilbert has his Purgatory Sword, but he becomes worried because he doesn't know if Gilbert charged the sword after he used it. Meanwhile, Tino tells the others that the quest won't be easy since it was given to them by Cry, so it's why she wrote her will before she left. They all think Cry must have selected them for a reason, but he really just picked them all randomly. Cry thinks they can just come back if things get out of control, but he knows Tino won't retreat no matter the situation, so he decides to catch up to them before they reach the vault, and he plans to tell Ark to complete the quest once they return. He opens a secret room and he packs as many relics as he can, looking at a particular safe. As he prepares to leave, Eva sees him trying to go out. She knows he's worried about the others, and she's surprised to see he took the Citrus slime relic, but he assures her he isn't stupid enough to have something that's illegal. But he thinks about how all his offensive relics are out of mana, so he needs to bring it as a last resort. He uses another relic to fly out, and Eva worries about him since it's ridiculously hard to control. Meanwhile, Tino and the others are attacked by a phantom, and they're shocked because it's wearing armor and has a sword, but Tino is determined to meet Cry's expectations of her. We go back to when the Grieving Souls first started working in the capital, and Luke is surprised that his sword broke against a phantom. As they talk about how they defeated a Cyclops, a drunk man overhears them, and he thinks they must be making up a story, because there's no way a level 4 phantom would appear in a level 1 vault, but he's shocked when they show him the Cyclops' eye. Back in the present, Tino and the others manage to defeat the wolf, but they're surprised there was such a strong phantom in a level 3 vault. Greg asks Gilbert why he didn't use his flames during the fight, so he mentions the sword is out of mana, realizing it's because Cry used it. Ruta thinks they should retreat, and Greg notes the people they're tasked with rescuing must be dead already, but Tino refuses to change the plan, saying the people are still alive. She thinks everything is happening just as Cry predicted, and she tells Gilbert that Cry purposely made his sword run out of mana, so he would realize he shouldn't depend on a relic. They come across a group of wolves, and Gilbert decides to take the lead, saying if he can get rid of the ones with the bows and guns, they can easily defeat the rest. Tino calls him stupid, but he mentions that even without mana, his sword is stronger than a normal one, but she tells him Cry trusted her as the leader, so she will make sure everyone survives. She notes that she and Ruta will attract the wolves, telling Greg and Gilbert to use the opportunity to attack them from behind. She mentions that she'll never use anyone to protect herself, but we see Cry wishing for at least her to survive, even if she has to use the other members as a shield. They manage to defeat the wolves, and Tino knows that even though their opponents are much stronger, they still have an advantage since they can rely on teamwork, while the wolves have no concept of working together. She thinks about how even though their party was made on the spot, they still work well together, and she thinks it was all planned by Cry. They're attacked by more wolves, and while fighting them, Gilbert remembers the time he left his old party, but he realizes they were doing the best that they could, and he never considered their feelings. Gilbert slashes the wolf with the help of Greg, and he's happy to finally have strong allies. As they move forward, Tino senses the boss, and Greg wonders if they should retreat, but Tino notes that they have managed to make it so far without getting hurt, so she thinks they'll figure something out against the boss. She tells him they need to take risks sometimes, but he notes that once a hunter reaches level 4, they can live an easy life by conquering low-level vaults, and he avoids fights he can't win, because he has seen his comrades die. Tino mentions how Greg has been a hunter for a long time, but he still came to join the first steps, so it must be because he wants to achieve something, and she thinks it's the reason why Cry selected him. She tells Greg and Gilbert that the mission is Cry's way of helping them, but Ruta wonders why she was selected, and Tino wonders if it was because of her chest. They come across the boss, and Tino sees that it isn't wearing a helmet, so she thinks it must be its weak point. She tells everyone to stop its movements, and they rush towards it, but it sends Greg flying and breaks his sword. As it's about to hit him with its axe, Ruta pushes him out of the way, and Tino prepares to attack. She jumps up in the air, and even though the wolf hits her leg, she still defeats it by stabbing its neck. Tino uses a potion to heal her leg, and Greg is surprised his sword broke during the fight, but Gilbert mentions they should be happy that they survived. Tino gives Greg another sword, but 4 more wolves suddenly appear and attack them, which shocks them since there's more than one boss in the vault. They have no idea what to do, and Tino shows them the path they can use to escape, but it gets blocked by one of the wolves. Gilbert and Greg decide to stay back to act as decoys, so Tino and Ruta can escape, but Tino refuses to sacrifice anyone. She tells them to attack the wolf's eyes, so Gilbert rushes towards one of them, and as he blocks its attack, Greg stabs its leg with his sword, but it blows them away. Ruta throws her knives at its eyes, and Tino remembers when Cry taught her how to use his ring relic. She uses it to blind the wolf, and Gilbert uses the opportunity to finish it off, but it sends him flying into a wall. He apologizes to Tino for attacking without thinking, but she says it's her fault because her instructions weren't clear. The wolves are about to attack them, and they think it's all over, but Cry suddenly crashes in, smashing one of the wolves into a wall. The wolf gets back up and tries to attack him, but it's shocked to see there's a shield protecting him. Cry uses his ring to fire a huge blast, and Greg is amazed at the power of a level 8 hunter. But everyone is surprised when the wolf is completely fine, and Cry knows that his shooting rings aren't that powerful. He's confused after seeing that the wolves have weapons, and he just wants to get away safely, so he prepares to use Citri slime, which scares the wolves. But the vial is empty, so he creates a smoke screen as a distraction, and he tells everyone to run away. As they run, Ruta notes how Cry seems to be slow, but she thinks he's just matching their pace since Tino is injured, but he's really just bad at running. Tino also thinks he's doing it on purpose to protect her, and she remembers the first time they met. She was about to be kidnapped by some men, but the grieving souls saved her just in time, and ever since that day, she has always admired them. The group manages to escape the wolves, and Ruta tells Cry if it weren't for Tino, they wouldn't have survived, but he apologizes for sending them on such a dangerous mission. He uses a relic to heal Tino, and he tells everyone to think of a way to get out of the vault instead of thinking about fighting the bosses, but he gets worried since he has no idea where to go. We go back to the past, when Cry shows all the relics he bought to his friends, which impresses everyone, and his friend Liz asks him to pick one out for her, but Luke says it's not fair, and tells him he should choose one for all of them. Citri shows interest in a bag, and Cry notes it's a magic bag that can store an unlimited number of items, so she thinks it must have cost a lot, but he reveals it was actually cheap, because it only holds chocolates. Liz tries a bracelet, but she suddenly falls over, and Cry mentions it's a labyrinth ring, which messes up her sense of balance. Luke tries out a cool sword, but he starts to lose his mind, and Cry mentions that it's cursed, so they realize that all the relics are trash, but they take them as training items. Back in the present, Cry wonders why he's leading, even though he has no clue where to go. He thinks Tino or Ruta should take his place since they're thieves, and Gilbert asks him if they're headed for the exit, but Tino tells him it's a part of his training to read Cry's intentions, and she notes that they aren't heading toward the exit, which shocks everyone. She mentions that based on the map she saw before they left, she has a rough idea of the layout of the vault, so she knows the path that they are on doesn't lead to the exit, and she says that they need to return to the boss room if they want to leave. As they move forward, Ruta notes that even though she knows Cry is testing them, she still asks him where he's taking them, but he doesn't have any idea, and he wonders why they're all following him. As he thinks about turning back, everyone rushes ahead, and Tino mentions it's why they should have trusted him. He wonders what she means, and he's surprised that they managed to find Rudolph's party, who thanks everyone for rescuing them, but Tino notes he should thank Cry, since he was the one who led them there. Ruta mentions she has given them potions, but they're still losing energy and they need to eat, so Cry uses his magic bag to give everyone chocolate. Greg notes that when he heard a party of level 5 hunters went missing, he thought it must have been a mistake, and Rudolph mentions they weren't expecting the enemy to be so strong. But Gilbert is confused, because even though the wolves were strong, he doesn't think they would have been a problem for a group of level 5 hunters, but Rudolph reveals they were attacked by only one phantom, and it had a skull for a face. Everyone is shocked hearing this, and he mentions the phantom is probably the curse of the silver moon that lingers in the vault. He thinks that the grudge of the monsters that were slain by humans was amplified within the vault, which is what gave them power, but he notes that the phantom that attacked them was on another level, and he thinks it might even be as strong as the Thousand Swords. Cry thinks about how Luke is known as the Thousand Swords, since he mastered all the forms of swordsmanship, and he's so strong that he can cut down his enemies with a wooden sword. He knows the phantoms are strong, but he doesn't think they could be on par with Luke, because if such a phantom existed, Luke would have already defeated it. Ruta asks Cry what they should do next, and he says they should get out of the vault, but he notes that he made Tino the leader of the mission, so they'll do whatever she decides, saying it's part of her training, but he's really just scared of leading everyone. Tino agrees that they should leave the vault, and she mentions her leg is completely healed, so she can run at full speed, but Cry reminds her to keep the others in mind, but he's just worried about himself since he can't run as fast as her. They're about to reach the exit, and Rudolph notes if the phantom attacks them, he will hold it off so everyone can escape, but Tino refuses to abandon him. She notes that as long as Cry is with them, everyone will be safe, but Cry knows he can only carry Tino and run away if something happens. He sees he has only 5 safety rings left, so he'll be in danger if he gets hit more than 5 times. He doesn't have any other relics to use, which makes him realize it will be over for him if they're attacked. They hear the wolves howling, and the phantom suddenly appears in front of them, which scares everyone, but they're even more shocked when they see that there's a second one. But the one behind suddenly kicks the other one, sending him flying into the wall, and Cry realizes that it's Liz. He tells her to remove her mask, and everyone is relieved that she's a human, wondering who she is, but she gets angry that they don't know her, even though they're with Cry. She mentions she went to the capital to meet him, but Eva told her he had gone to the wolf den. She gets angry at Tino, because even though she's her disciple, she couldn't defeat such a weak phantom. Gilbert tries to interrupt them, but Liz sends him flying, and she turns back to Tino, who falls to her knees. Liz starts yelling at her, asking her why she's so weak, and Tino apologizes to her, but Cry tells her she did a good job because she completed the mission, so he tells Liz to go easy on her. The Phantom gets back up, and it summons one of the wolves that has a Gatling gun. Liz gets mad she's being underestimated because of how weak Tino was, and the wolf starts to shoot its gun at her, but she uses her insane speed to catch them out of the air, arranging them all around her. She notes that she can't be hit by weapons of the old, and she yells at Tino, calling her incompetent for being scared of such a weak weapon, but she jumps into the air, saying the wolf can be defeated if it's attacked from above, and she blows it up in a single hit. The Phantom tries to attack with its sword, but she catches it with her hand. She starts to beat it to a pulp, while she continues to yell at Tino, which makes her tear up, and Cry feels bad for her. He smiles as he thinks about how Rudolph said the Phantom was as strong as Luke, and he knows that besides him, all the Grievers are insanely strong, because they've honed their skills by competing against each other. They all return to the capital, and Gilbert mentions that he will give his sword to Cry, because he plans to start his training from the beginning and train with his old party. Greg tells him to apologize to them for his past behavior, and he mentions he's indebted to all of them, asking them to give his gratitude to Cry. He hopes to be able to catch bullets like Liz, but they tell him it's impossible for him, and Tino mentions that if he really wants to be like her, then he should know that their masks are specially made. We go back to when Cry ordered the masks for the party, but he messed it up and forgot to get holes for their eyes, but everyone goes along with it, thinking he did it on purpose, because if they can get around while having it on, they will become even stronger. Back in the present, Cry searches everywhere for the slime, but he can't find it anywhere, so he tries to just forget about it. We go back a year, to when Citri gave Cry the slime to hold onto, and we learn she's the party's genius alchemist. Cry tries to open the vial, but Citri tells him to be careful, because it might destroy the capital if it's released, so Cry realizes how dangerous it is. Cry looks around everywhere for the slime, as he notes that when he tried to use it in the den, the vial was empty, so he thinks it must still be in his room. He remembers how he put it into his special safe, so it's impossible for it to have gotten away. He concludes that the vial was always empty, and he thinks Citri was just pranking him, but he still has a bad feeling. He wakes up tired the next day, because he's still worried about the slime, and he runs into Eva, who tells him the association wants his report on the wolf's den, but he notes that Tino was the leader, so they should ask her instead, but Eva mentions that Tino is busy training with Liz. Cry asks her if there has been any movement in the capital, still thinking about the slime, but she doesn't know what he's talking about, so he tells her not to worry and goes to check on Tino. After he leaves, Eva notes how there have been all sorts of anomalies going on in the capital, but Cry seems to be able to accurately predict the things that happen. Cry heads to the training room, where he sees a level 6 hunter named Sven outside, and we learn he's the leader of the Obsidian Cross Party. He tells Cry he needs to stop Liz, because Tino will die if they don't do something. Cry thinks he's exaggerating, but when he opens the door, he sees Liz standing over Tino's body, wondering if this is all she can do. Liz prepares to finish her off, but Cry interrupts her. Liz notes that Tino has more talent than her, but she wonders why she's so weak. Cry tells her to call it a day, but Tino suddenly grabs onto Liz, saying she can still move, so they decide to continue their training. Cry realizes there's no stopping them, and Sven mentions how the northern route has been locked down because there was an attack from multiple phantoms. Cry also remembers how things were strange at the wolf's den, so he wonders if it's why Gark wanted to see him. He wishes Ark was back so he can get him to do all the work, so he thinks he just needs to stall for time. He comes up with an idea and tells Sven to visit Gark in his place, saying he's too busy to go himself. As he leaves, Sven's companion Henrik wonders why Cry stays back, while everyone else is out on missions, but Sven tells him he's new, calling Cry a monster, and he tells Henrik not to judge Cry by his laid-back appearance. Meanwhile at the association, Gark wonders about the cause of the anomaly at the den, thinking Cry must know something, because it's the only vault he has visited in a long time. We see a secret lab, and we meet a mage named Noctis, but he can't believe such a high-level hunter like Cry has become suspicious of them, thinking they can't underestimate him, so he decides to call his right hand Sophia to deal with him. We learn that the mages of the capital's Akashic Tower are the ones behind the vault anomalies, and we learn they're tapping into the power flowing through the ley lines of the vault for research that will allow them to create their own vaults at will. We see Cry as he watches in terror as a giant slime sets fire and destroys the capital, but he wakes up and realizes it was just a nightmare. He finds Liz in his bed, and she asks him if he's free, so he agrees to do something with her. We see Gark visiting the first steps, but when Liz sees him, she tells him to get lost, not wanting him to ruin her date with Cry. They start to fight, so Cry decides to talk to Gark's assistant Kana. She asks him if he noticed anything strange from the den, but he mentions he was more worried about something else. She tries to ask him about it, but he knows he can't tell her about the slime, and he tells her to ask Gark for help with the anomalies. Meanwhile, Liz teases Gark for being rusty, telling him he fell off, so he decides to teach her a lesson. We learn he was a first-rate level 7 hunter, and he had the nickname of being the War Demon, but Cry interrupts their fight, telling Gark they're done with their business, so Liz gets ready to go out, and Eva freaks out seeing all the damage from the fight. Cry and Liz head out into the city, and we learn that Liz and the other grievers were at a level 8 vault called the Night Palace. She notes that the phantoms there were strong, so Cry asks her how they compared to the boss from the Wolf's Den, but she doesn't even remember it because it was so weak. Liz suddenly tackles a man, saying he was staring at them, but Cry gets her to let him go and he apologizes to the man. The man quickly runs away, and Liz thinks Cry allowed it on purpose, thinking he's a good actor, but Cry is just confused. We see the man after he gets away, thinking Cry was giving him a warning, so he wonders how much Cry knows about their plan. Cry sends the obsidian cross to the association in his place, which makes Gark angry because he wanted to question Cry himself. But he knows the party is skilled, so he gives them the task of investigating the wolf's den. Meanwhile, Liz goes out with Cry again, but he tells her to calm down, reminding her that it's not a date. She asks him if he's looking for something, so he explains that Eva's report mentioned that people have been disappearing from the area, and even though such incidents aren't rare in these parts of the city, he thinks they need to take it seriously, because Citri's slime might be involved. He also mentions Eva told him about a new ice cream shop nearby, so he wants to check it out, which makes Liz excited. We see the man from the other day watching them, and he starts freaking out, thinking Cry and Liz let him go before, just so they could follow him. He notes that the ice cream shop is actually the secret research base for the Akashic Tower, so he thinks he needs to close the shop until Cry leaves, but Sophia suddenly arrives. She sees him panicking and wonders what's wrong, but before he can respond, Liz knocks on the shop's door. When no one answers, she gets impatient and tries to break it down, but Cry stops her, suggesting the shop might have run out of stock, so he convinces her to leave, even though she mentions she can still smell something sweet inside. They return to the clan office, where Liz is annoyed they didn't get ice cream, but Cry is still just worried about the slime. He asks her if Citri has returned from the Night Palace, so Liz offers her help instead since Citri won't be back for a while, but he mentions that he needs Citri's expertise on a certain magical creature. Eva arrives to tell him that she has chosen members for the investigation of the Wolf's Den, while Sven's team is already on site, but Ark isn't back yet. She mentions the investigation will begin tomorrow, and they're also sending a relic expert to check the vault, but Cry is just relieved he doesn't need to go, and he trusts her to manage it. Meanwhile, the Akashic Tower members have a meeting about how Cry has discovered their base in the capital, and one of the mages named Flick suggests that they stay calm, but since Cry's true intentions are unclear, they aren't sure how to proceed. Noctis asks Sophia for her opinion, and she shocks everyone by suggesting they should fight, but Flick reminds her that Cry is level 8. Sophia still thinks they shouldn't back down, because it's the perfect opportunity to test their defense system, and if they manage to wipe out Cry's party, there will be no one left to oppose them. Noctis likes her idea and tells her to do as she pleases, since Cry has already noticed them, so they can't expect to escape without a scratch. We see Tino walking through the city, and she's surprised to see so many hunters at the guild, but another hunter tells her they're collaborating with the association to investigate the Wolf's Den. Tino thinks there are way too many people, but the man mentions Cry wanted Ark to lead the mission, and since he's one of the top level 7 hunters in the world, all the hunters there are just to make up for him not being available. Cry arrives with Eva, and he's also surprised to see so many people. Eva explains that they're all replacements for Ark, and Cry worries about the cost of hiring everyone, so he suggests cutting the number in half, but the hunters worry about facing a threat serious enough to require Ark, which makes Cry wonder what's going on in the vault. Eva reassures him they can afford the extra hunters because Gark is helping pay, but he worries about sending them all, since Citri's slime might be in the vault. Liz suddenly arrives and mocks them, claiming she can handle the job on her own, so she asks Cry to allow her to go, but he refuses because he worries she will cause trouble with the other groups there, and he knows she will drag Tino along with her, who still hasn't fully recovered from her training. Eva asks Cry if he will lead the mission himself, which makes the hunters happy, but he thinks Sven is better suited for the role, and he notes he still has an important task to finish, so he will join them later, but he really just plans to show up only when the mission is nearly complete. As the party prepares to leave, Liz insists on going, but Cry tricks her by saying he has an important task for her. Before the hunters leave, they ask if there's anything they should be cautious about, and Cry warns them to watch out for slime-like creatures, which surprises them since slimes don't usually appear in the wolves' den. Meanwhile, at the Akashic Tower base, Noctis learns that there are hunters approaching, which makes them worried, but Sophia believes they can handle it. She mentions that from the grieving souls, only Cry, Liz and Citri are in the capital. She says they can easily deal with Liz by stopping her physical attacks, and Cry is a strategist, so he can't use his full abilities without another party member to guide. Noctis notes that the real threat is Citri, but Sophia tells him her defense system will restrict her alchemy techniques, making it impossible to penetrate, but she notes that Citri has been snooping around their research, so they must take her out. Noctis gives her full authority to do as she pleases, and he even orders his men to follow her every command. Meanwhile in the den, Sven and his team notice everything seems normal, making Henrik wonder why they even accepted the quest, but Sven reminds him it was a direct order from Gark, so they didn't have a choice. Henrik complains they're just cleaning up after Cry's mess, but Sven tells them they will eventually understand how skilled Cry is. He receives a message about Cry's warning, so he gets Henrik to blow the emergency whistle, which makes all the other teams evacuate outside, but another hunter named Gain thinks he's wasting their time over a slime. But Sven defends Cry by explaining his ability to see the future, and he recalls the time when Cry advised them to bring weapons to a flower viewing party, which later turned out to be a vault called the Prism Garden. Gain is shocked hearing this, and Sven reveals he's spent a lot on his communication stones, so he can always get the latest information. Meanwhile, Liz keeps bothering Cry, saying she wants to fight in front of him to show her true strength, but he tries to stall until the investigation is over. Citri suddenly arrives, and Liz wonders why she's back, but she notes that she had a bad feeling that something big was happening, so she came back to help Cry. We go back to their childhood, where Citri tells Cry she needs to make up for what the others lack, so they can continue enjoying life as hunters. She knows she isn't strong, but Cry suggests she take on a role that suits her best, which is how she became their alchemist. In the present, Citri explains to Cry how her slime evolved and improved, but she still considers it a failed experiment. She reassures him that he doesn't need to worry, because she has programmed it so that it won't attack either of them. Citri wonders how it could have escaped Cry's safe, and after investigating, she thinks that the slime must have learned to open the vault on its own, and it snuck out through the bath drain. She promises to take care of it, but she also mentions that if things continue the way they're going, the entire investigation team at the Wolves' Den will be wiped out. Sven learns that Cry and Liz won't be joining them until later, so he will need to lead everyone in their absence. He gathers all the hunters, and he asks if anyone has experience fighting slimes, but they laugh since they're considered weak, and one hunter even jokes that he might have killed a slime without even noticing. Sven asks them if anyone has brought tools to deal with slimes, so the group begins listing the various weaknesses of slimes and how they can easily defeat one. They're interrupted by Gain, who insists they resume exploring, and he mentions he isn't scared of a slime, so if one comes, he will deal with it himself, but everyone mocks him, saying he's the type who would die first. Sven even tells him to leave behind his personal information so they can avenge him after he dies, which makes him annoyed, and he dismisses their warnings, saying they're crazy for believing Cry, who didn't even show up. A girl named Talia introduces herself as an alchemist, which surprises Sven, because he didn't think they had another alchemist besides Citri, so she reveals she worked in the clan's lab with Citri, where they researched on slimes. They ask if she knows of any slime weaknesses, so she shows them a drug, which should be able to kill any slime, putting everyone at ease. Meanwhile, Noctis contacts Sophia, who tells him they're up against less than 100 hunters, and most of them don't even have a title, so she thinks they will easily defeat them. Sven prepares an action plan, telling the hunters to secure the vault's interior as units, and to use whistles for communication. He tells them to be careful, and notes that those who aren't assigned to suppression should stay outside to assist with any rescues if necessary. After a while, reports come in that only a few wolf knights have been encountered, which makes Sven question Cry's ability to predict the future, but he notes they would be lucky if nothing happens. Gain complains they wasted too much time, while Henrik says that even though he doesn't know Cry well, he trusts in Sven's judgment. Gain goes into the forest, and he thinks if Ark had given the order, he would have trusted it, but with Cry sitting back in the capital, he doesn't feel the same. He suddenly hears a noise and assumes it's a wolf, but he's shocked to find two mages with a wolf knight that's chained up, and they have a suspicious-looking syringe. They talk about how Sophia is their master's favorite, even though she can't use magic properly, but Gain rushes at them, and he manages to take out one of them, while the other mage shoots fire at him, which he blocks using his shield. He knocks the mage out, but his arm still gets burned, and the mages wonder if it was Cry who sent him. But he denies it, and they inject the wolf with mana material, transforming it into a giant slime creature. They explain it's a phantom, which has been demonized to seek out high concentrations of mana, so it starts to attack Gain. The creature lets out a loud roar, drawing all the hunters to its location, where they find Gain, who's severely injured, and he confirms Cry was right about the slime. The creature soon appears, and Talia notes she has never seen such a big slime before. Sven notices it has slow movement, and he tries to organize the hunters, ordering the mages to create a diversion. He orders everyone to attack its legs, but even his own arrows don't affect the monster, so he tells Henrik to help Gain, who mentions how the mages injected a wolf knight to turn it into a slime, just as Cry had predicted. Sven realizes both physical and magical attacks don't affect it, so one of the hunters asks him what they should do. Sven notes that even if they can't defeat it, they can't run away. He tells everyone to focus on dodging its attacks, while he takes the drug from Talia, which she explains will cause the slime to self-destruct if the liquid touches the slime. Sven gets the slime's attention, and as it chases after him, it jumps high up into the air and surprises everyone, but Sven plants the container under where it will land. The slime bubbles up on contact, but it doesn't work, and Sven realizes it isn't a slime like Cry had predicted, but another hunter corrects him, saying Cry warned them about a creature that was slime-like. Citri arrives explaining the creature has a magical barrier, and she notes Cry sent her because he thought things might become dangerous. She describes how the slime creates a strong force field that deflects arrows and counters magic, and she thinks they wouldn't encounter a phantom like this even in a level 8 vault. She notices the slime dissolving its own body to convert mana material into magical energy, so she explains it's trying to replenish itself by absorbing her mana, since she has the highest mana concentration among them all. She continues to dodge all its attacks and gets close to the creature, asking Sven for his help as she tosses another container toward the slime. So he shoots it with his arrow, and the slime is instantly dissolved. Citri reveals the container had an anti-mana material, and Gark also arrives there wearing his armor, which surprises Sven, but Citri notes that Gark gave her a lift, since she can't run like Liz. Meanwhile, at the Akashic Tower base, Noctis is shocked that Citri managed to defeat the demonized phantom so easily, and he remembers Sophia warning them about her abilities. Citri briefs the hunters on her investigation into the Akashic Tower and Noctis, explaining that they have been researching ways to manipulate vaults. They remind her that Noctis was banished from the capital, but she reveals she has done thorough research, and she notes the phantom they faced was most likely a product of the Akashic Tower's experiments. Talia thinks there must be an underground device involved, and Citri agrees, because creating such monsters would require significant equipment. She worries that there may be more monsters like the one they defeated, and she admits she only had one stick of anti-mana, which she has already used. She notes that she isn't a good fighter, but she's determined to do her best, and thinks that with everyone's help, they will be okay. Later on, Henrik praises Citri in front of Sven, but he warns him to be cautious because he considers her a powerful weakling. He notes she's one of the grieving souls, so she'll do anything to survive, even if it means devouring him. Meanwhile, at the Akashic Tower base, the mages tell Flick that Sophia has ordered them to release the demonized phantoms one by one, but they believe it will only help the hunters defeat them more easily. Flick notes that Sophia is just a researcher, and she has no combat experience, so they try to contact her, but they can't reach her. He mentions that even though they're well prepared, if the one leading them is incompetent, it won't mean anything. The mages remind him that the master gave Sophia full authority, but he thinks what really matters is winning, so Flick orders them to release all the phantoms at once, thinking it will overwhelm their enemies. Meanwhile, on the surface, the hunters interrogate the captured mages and learn that a single injection can create a monster. Citri asks if they're working for Noctis, promising to guarantee their safety if they answer, but the mages refuse to betray their master, which confirms her suspicion about their connection to the Akashic Tower. She mentions that she knows how to make them talk and pulls out a tube, which the others recognize as a brainwashing potion, and they tell her to stop, saying that using such a potion is a war crime, so she drinks the liquid herself and explains that it was just colored water, but she really just has a resistance to it. The demonized phantoms soon arrive, and the captured mages try to scare the hunters. Sven asks Citri how they can defeat them, and she explains that the phantoms have several barriers, so they must figure out the attributes of the barriers to know how to break through them. Sven observes Citri's calmness, and he notices the phantom is much faster than the previous one they faced. Citri tells the shield bearers to stand at the front, so they can check the direction of the phantom's force field, but she warns them to drop their shields as soon as they make contact. The phantom attacks, and one of the hunters loses his arm despite Citri's warning, so she tells the others to focus on the monster, but their attacks prove useless because the phantom's force field rotates, allowing it to dodge everything. She analyzes the situation and concludes that physical attacks, including Gark's axe, won't work, so he wonders if they should wait for the phantom's mana to run out, but Citri disagrees, saying it would take at least an hour, and Sven finally understands why Cry wanted Ark to handle the mission. As they debate on their next move, another phantom appears, making their escape seem impossible, but Citri suddenly gets an idea and notices a major flaw in the Akashic Tower's approach. She calls the mages back, ordering them to stop attacking, and to everyone's surprise, the phantoms start attacking each other instead of the hunters. Citri explains that the phantoms instinctively target humans to replenish their mana, but without hunters attacking them, the only other mana sources are the other phantoms themselves, because they are basically lumps of mana material. The hunters watch in amazement as the phantoms destroy one another, while the mages are unable to understand what went wrong. Meanwhile, at the Akashic Tower base, Noctis is furious with Flick and the others since they went against Sophia's orders. Sophia defends herself, saying that while she lacks battle experience, her orders are never without reason. Noctis tries to stay positive and points out that their fighting strength isn't limited to the phantoms. He asks Sophia what they should do next, and she notes that Citri and Gark have also joined the hunters, so the situation has changed. She thinks they can't afford to retreat, and she reminds them of the captured mages, worrying they might reveal information about the tower. Flick thinks the mages won't betray them, but Sophia believes Citri will still soon locate their base, so they'll need to unleash the Malice Eater to crush the hunters. Noctis reminds her that the Malice Eater is still in training, and someone will need to control it, so Sophia tells Flick to take charge, saying it's his chance to prove his worth. Talia admires Citri for never giving up, thinking she's a true genius, but seeing her makes her feel jealous, because she thinks she can never reach her level. Sven notices Talia deep in thought, and he asks if something is bothering her. He wonders if it's because her slime repellent failed, but she denies it, and he tries to cheer her up, saying Cry should have warned them it wasn't a regular slime. He also mentions how the mages keep staring at her, thinking it might be because of her red hair. Gark thinks they might need to retreat, but Citri surprises him by saying that she has found the location of the enemy base. She explains the exact spot where she believes they are hidden, based on the presence of mana and a number of other factors. She asks the mages if she's correct, so they lie and tell her she's wrong, but it only confirms her suspicion. They note that they must go on the offensive before Noctis escapes, but the mages tell them their master isn't there, and they call for Sophia to stop the hunters. Sven wonders who Sophia is, so Citri mentions she's her arch-nemesis, and she vows to capture both her and Noctis, saying that their research will continue unless they're stopped. She admits she failed to capture Sophia in the past due to her incompetence, but she swears to put her away the next time they meet. Meanwhile, Cry and the others approach the den, but he isn't happy because he had planned to arrive only after everything was over. Liz tells them to hurry, believing Citri might die without them, but Cry doubts it, thinking that the only one who might die is himself, since he hasn't charged his relics and doesn't have any safety rings. Tino mentions they have almost arrived, but it's too dark for Cry to see anything. Tino tries to use the chance to hold his hand, but Liz refuses to let her touch him. Meanwhile, Gain regrets not trusting Cry, because if he had, he wouldn't have gotten so wrecked. Citri notes that Cry is a genius who might one day reach level 10, which makes Gain even more eager to meet him. Gain assumes Cry must be incredibly strong, but Citri explains that strength isn't everything, and even if Cry were weaker than a sand rabbit in combat, it still wouldn't matter. A bolt of lightning suddenly strikes them from the sky, and Flick appears riding the Malice Eater. He thinks he has redeemed himself by taking them all out, but Citri is unharmed by the attack and dismisses his spell as basic magic, since she's used to that level of power when she's with the other grieving souls. She uses a water gun to shoot Sven with a healing potion, instantly reviving him. He gets up and charges at Flick, knocking him out, but the monster proves to be too powerful, and he's almost killed, but Gark arrives just in time, and kills the monster in one hit. Noctis is disappointed in Flick, since he didn't follow the orders once again, noting he only took one Malice Eater when he was supposed to take more. His followers begin to lose hope, wondering if Cry planned everything from the start, so they consider deploying all their remaining Malice Eaters, but Noctis stops them, mentioning that they still have Sophia and their final trump card. We see that Citri and the others have made it to outside the Akashic Tower base. Sven prepares to enter, but Gark volunteers to take the lead, since he wants to prove Liz wrong about him being washed. Meanwhile, Cry's party observes the effects of Flick's lightning, and Liz notes that it was average, but Tio can't believe that she thinks that an attack on such a scale is only average. We see the hunters going up against the Akashic mages, but Noctis unleashes his trump card, an enormous golem named Akasha, and he calls it the culmination of all their research. Gark manages to block its attack, but the other hunters struggle against the Malice Eaters, and the captured mages escape during the chaos. Gain thinks they should retreat, but Sven gets hit, and things are looking bad, but one of the Malice Eaters is suddenly taken out, as Liz suddenly appears, and the other hunters get fired up seeing they have reinforcements. Meanwhile, we see Cry left with Tino, and he worries about losing Liz as his bodyguard. Tino senses something nearby, but Cry thinks they should just ignore it, but the mages wonder what he is thinking, since they think he should be aware of them. Liz takes out another Malice Eater, and she teases Citri for struggling against such weak creatures. She starts attacking the golem, but it's able to withstand her attacks. Gark swings his axe at it, but it jumps up to avoid it. Sven sees that it looks similar to the grieving soul Ansem, and Liz wonders why the golem was modeled after him. She continues her attack, but the golem pulls out a gun and lands a blast on her. It starts chasing after her, and Citri thinks it's a bad matchup for Liz, so she thinks they need to just wait for the golem to run out of energy, but Liz insists on destroying it. She delivers another attack, kicking it down, and Gark freezes its leg, but it's able to stop itself from falling. Liz gets annoyed, noting that her time is up, and Sven wonders what she means, but Cry and Tino suddenly appear. She notes that she wanted to finish things before he arrived, and Citri realizes it's over. The golem starts to charge at him, but he can't actually see it in the dark. It prepares to attack him, but it suddenly gets blown away, and the fight appears to be over. Liz wonders what he did to it, but he doesn't even know what happened. After that, it seems the Akashic Tower mages were able to escape, but their research and materials are all confiscated. Citri thanks Cry for his help, and he wonders how things are going with her nemesis, but she thinks about handling it on her own. Meanwhile, the captured mages regroup with Noctis, and they tell him that Sophia has infiltrated the hunters. Noctis wonders about what she's thinking, but he struggles to read Cry's intentions, so he decides they can't risk it, so they need to just leave the capital, and he tells his men to call Sophia back. Meanwhile at the association, Gark demands to know what Cry knows, but he swears that he knows nothing. He thinks they should talk to Citri since she was in charge of the mission, but the official is hesitant about questioning her. He even notes that there was an incident 3 years ago, where there was a mass prison breakout, and all the evidence pointed to Citri, but she got off thanks to Gark, who thought it was ridiculous for her to be involved. Talia is brought to Noctis, and he tells her to drop her act. He tells her they're leaving, but she has no idea what he's talking about. They wonder if she's using a spell to avoid suspicion, but they notice the Malice Eater is aggressive towards her, so they realize she's not Sophia. The real Sophia appears, and Noctis wonders why there's a girl that looks just like her, but she explains that she's the one who's the copy. She reveals herself to actually be Citri, and Noctis wonders what she's doing pretending to be Sophia, but she explains that Sophia never existed, and it was always her from the beginning. Flick thinks she was planning to betray them, but she notes she became a disciple like all of them, because she was drawn by Noctis's abilities. She mentions she respects his relentless dedication, and she's thankful for all the equipment and materials, but she thinks the jig is up, and she thinks Cry letting them go was his warning to her to stop what she's doing. Noctis thinks she must have leaked their research to Cry, but she mentions that he's just able to see through everything. She thinks he organized everything while she was away, sending high-level hunters to help test the fruits of her research. She reveals that she was the one who made the golem jump back, because she thinks the battle would have led to too many casualties. She tells them all that they will all be captured as criminals, but she tells them not to worry, since she will carry on their research. Flick orders the Malice Eater to attack her, but it doesn't work, so Noctis blasts her with his flames, but she emerges unharmed, and he can't believe his attack had no effect, but she reveals that her slime absorbed the blast. She gets excited to test it out, and the mages tell Noctis to run while they hold it back. We see him about to get away, but he gets pushed back by a cloaked figure, so he burns it with his flames, but it turns out to be a jacked monster. Noctis freaks out seeing it, and Citri notes that as the weakest member of the Grieving Souls, she had to quickly gain power. She mentions that creating a golem took too much time and resources, so she made a chimera instead. She reveals she was behind the mass prison break incident, mentioning it was all so she could get the parts she needed. She calls it kill him, and Noctis thinks she's insane, but it ends up finishing him off. After that, Cry asks about what happened to Talia, but Citri notes she just had some memory loss. She thinks it's a shame how everything turned out, but Cry has no idea what she's talking about, so he just agrees with her. A meeting is held about the incident at the association, and Cry helps Citri ask for the golem and the Malice Eaters. The official wonders what he wants with a Malice Eater, but he mistakes it for a drink which shocks everyone. After the meeting, Citri thanks Cry for his help, and we learn they were able to get a Malice Eater. Citri goes to collect it, and as Cry is about to go to the lobby, Gark interrupts him, saying he needs to talk. Gark tells him about a party called the Fallen Fog, who just arrived in the capital from the Land of Fog, and they're led by a man named Arnold Hale. Gark is surprised Cry doesn't know Arnold, so he tells him Arnold is a level 7 hunter who killed a thunder dragon, but Cry mentions that he's also a dragon slayer. Gark laughs and tells him not to cause any trouble, and as he just pats him on his back, it breaks one of his safety rings. Cry sees a poster for an auction he wants to attend, which is selling off some of the highest quality relics, but Cry notes that he doesn't have any money. He thinks about borrowing from Citri, but he remembers he hasn't even paid her back for the last time he took money from her. Gark's niece named Chloe asks Cry why Gark was in a good mood, but she's surprised when he tells her they were talking about Arnold. After Cry and Citri leave, Arnold arrives at the association, and Chloe welcomes him, thinking he's new, but the people with him get scared seeing the way she's talking to him. Meanwhile, Citri shows the Malice Eater she got to Cry and Eva. Eva wonders if it's dangerous, but Citri notes she has trained it so it won't hurt her or Cry. It jumps on Cry, but it breaks his safety rings as he plays with it, so he realizes it's too dangerous. He realizes he needs to recharge his relics, so he asks Citri when his sister Lucia will be back, but she notes it will be a while, because a swordsman phantom appeared in the Night Palace boss room, so Lucia and the others will need to accompany Luke until he defeats it. Citri gives him a ring, which we learn is a relic that can store one spell from the user, and we see that he also has one from Lucia. Meanwhile, the Fallen Fog members are angry because Chloe didn't know who Arnold was. They refuse to be underestimated just because they're outsiders, and they decide to show everyone what they can do. Citri gives Cry a massage, and he notes that he needs to charge all his relics, but there's no one other than Lucia has the mana to do it, so Citri tells him she will think of something. She gathers a group of hunters, telling them they're doing a special training in magic cultivation that Cry came up with. She tells them it will help them reach Lucia's level, and Sven is shocked to hear this. She asks them if any of them are willing to try it, and 2 members of the Starlight Party named Chris and Lapis agree to undergo the training. Chris gets angry at Cry because he didn't greet Lapis, but Lapis stops her, saying that even though Cry is a fool, he's still the clan master. We learn that the Starlight Party is a rare party composed of a sub-race called Noble Spirits, who are known for their longevity and exceptional magic skills, but they look down on anyone who isn't an outstanding mage. Lapis notes that even the nobles consider Lucia extraordinary, so she doesn't think there's any training that can make them as strong as her, but Citri mentions Lucia became one of the most powerful mages because of the training. Another girl named Marriott also asks to participate, so Citri gives her one of Cry's rings to charge, but she's surprised by how much mana it needs. She manages to finish charging it, but she's shocked when Citri gives her another ring, and she mentions that the power of a mage is determined by their total mana, which stops increasing for most people in their early teens. Marriott suddenly passes out, and Citri mentions that when mana is overused, you enter a state of mana exhaustion, but she notes that during recovery from the condition, there's a chance to increase the upper limit of your mana. Sven thinks it's insane, and Chris mentions even for noble spirits, recovering mana takes time, so she doesn't think the method is efficient. But Citri gives Marriott some special juice, which makes her let out a scream, and Citri reveals that her mana has already increased, saying that by repeating the process, they can become stronger. Lapis wonders if Lucia really underwent such training, and Citri mentions that Lucia's power isn't due to talent, but because of her hard work. She knows that Starlight is trying to recruit Lucia, but she mentions Lucia hasn't joined them because of their attitude, where they think they are better than everyone else because of their natural talent. Chris gets angry, so she tells Citri to give her all the relics, saying she will charge them all, and as she starts doing it, the other hunters join her as well. Meanwhile, Ark gets an offer to work for a man named Sandrine, but he notes that he still has a lot to learn from Cry. Sandrine asks him if he has met with the Lord Gladys, saying his daughter Claire is looking for him, and she appears behind them. Cry and Citri go to meet Liz, and Tino notes that she's taking a shower. Liz comes out naked, so Citri quickly covers Cry's eyes, telling her to put on some clothes. Liz wonders if Cry needs something, and he tells her he's thinking of celebrating their safe return, which makes her excited, and she goes to hug him, but Citri holds her back. They go to a bar where Liz and Citri start a drinking contest, but Citri puts a potion in Liz's drink to get her drunk faster. She starts to accuse Citri, and they begin to argue, but Citri puts another potion in her drink, saying they should continue their competition, but she's shocked when Cry gives her the drink with the potion. So she also gets drunk, and starts asking Cry if he only uses her for her money, mentioning he owes her over 1 billion gild, so she tells him he can pay it back with his body, but as she gets close to him, Liz gets in the way. The Fallen Fog members also arrive at the bar, where they start to cause problems, trying to show off that Arnold is at level 7. He demands to have women and alcohol, so Liz goes up to him, and she pours a drink on his head, which pisses him off, but she smashes him with the jug, and easily defeats all of them. Back at the clan office, Eva notes that even though the Fallen Fog members were also at fault, it's still a problem since Liz attacked them. She thinks that since Arnold has a track record of defeating a Thunder Dragon, they should resolve things peacefully, and Cry notes that a Thunder Dragon would be delicious if it's grilled, saying Citri made it for him once, but Eva is surprised since a Thunder Dragon's body is made of rare and expensive material, so she has never heard of one being sold as food. The Fallen Fog goes to the association, and Chloe thinks they're there to submit a complaint since they got beaten up, but Arnold says that he only needs the name of the girl who attacked them, so Gark tells him it was Liz. He mentions he told Cry to keep her out of trouble, but he must have forgotten, and everyone is shocked when he mentions that Cry is at level 8. He tells them they shouldn't worry since Cry isn't the type who's a bully, so he tells them they'll be fine if they don't cause any more trouble, but it seems to only make Arnold more angry. Meanwhile, Eva is shocked after learning how much money Cry owes Citri, and he mentions she gave him 3 suggestions to pay off the debt. The first way was to throw her in prison so she defaults on her debt, but he tells her it isn't an option since she hasn't done anything wrong, but the second and third suggestions she gives him is to make her his bride, or to become her groom, so Cry jokes about how it looks like marriage is the only option. Eva mentions he can pay her back with his income from the grievers, or if he needs to pay her quickly, he can go to a treasure vault on his own, but he's too scared to do that. She mentions she will make a repayment plan for him, so she tells him not to increase his debt any further. The fallen fog goes around the city, trying to get information about Cry, but all they hear are rumors, and when they tell Arnold how Cry doesn't even go to the vaults, it makes him think it's because he hasn't met anyone with abilities that are on his level. They mention no one has ever even seen Cry fight, so Arnold thinks he must be the strategist type, who only reached level 8 because of his friends, which means Cry won't be any match for him, because he reached level 7 through his own power. Tino meets with Cry and asks him if he needs anything, saying she'll do whatever he needs, but she becomes sad when he asks her for money. She notes that she also needs money for buying supplies and maintaining her equipment, so there's a limit to how much he can borrow from her, but she can't believe it when he tells her how much he owes. He mentions Citri was the one who lent him the money, and she loses her mind when he notes that if he can't pay her back, he will just marry her. As they go to eat sweets, Tino mentions they can go to a vault and find relics, saying that the auction is taking place in the city, so the relics will sell at a high price. She thinks he can find a vault with valuable relics, but he notes that if he had such an ability, he wouldn't have needed to borrow money from Citri. They run into the fallen fog, who prepare to attack him, but Cry mentions that he understands how they feel, since Liz attacked them unexpectedly, so he apologizes on her behalf and even offers to kneel. He shuts Tino's mouth, saying he's on a date with her, and he didn't even bring his weapon, so they should fight another time, because they won't be satisfied by beating him when he isn't serious, but Tino tells them that Cry is just worried he'll beat them too badly, which will make them lose confidence. Cry tries to calm her down, but she keeps provoking them, so seeing that he has no other choice, he starts gathering a crowd around them, but they have no idea what he's planning, and we learn he was actually looking for other clan members to help him, but he had no luck. Arnold mentions that the rumors about him being mysterious are true, and he says that Cry only got to level 8 because of his friends, which makes Tino angry. Arnold likes the look in her eyes, and he thinks she'll become strong in the future, but the fallen fog members tell her that she's no match for Arnold. She asks for Cry's permission to fight, and everyone is shocked when he doesn't stop her. Tino starts attacking Arnold, but he easily blocks all of her attacks. Cry keeps looking around for other clan members, but the fallen fog tell him to pay attention to the fight, since Tino is fighting for him, so he starts to cheer for her, which annoys Arnold. Tino lands a kick, but it does nothing, and Arnold smashes her head into the ground, angry that Cry sent an inferior opponent to fight him. Cry realizes he has no other choice, so he decides to use his pendant, which has Lucia's magic stored inside. He uses a high-level gravity magic to defeat the fallen fog, but Tino also accidentally gets hit by it. He tells Arnold that if he still wants to fight him, he needs to first defeat the 3 main parties of his clan to challenge him again. After that, Tino apologizes to Cry since she couldn't meet his expectations, but he notes that it's his fault since he misread the situation. She still wants to redeem herself, so she asks Cry to tell her where the treasure vaults with valuable relics are, and she swears to work hard to repay his debt. Meanwhile, Liz trains with a golem made by Citri, but she's disappointed since it's just a replica, telling Citri to bring her the original one, but she mentions it's with the investigation bureau. She tells Liz about how Tino fought with Arnold, and she thinks it must have been a hard fight for her. Citri mentions how Cry helped her in the end, and she wonders if they should take care of the fallen fog, but Liz thinks they should leave them alone unless Cry orders them. Cry meets with Chloe, saying he doesn't understand why Arnold and the others are mad at him, so she notes it's because that even though Arnold is a level 7 hunter, Cry still forgets about his existence. She asks him what his first impression of Arnold was, so he mentions he must like women with large chests, since he wasn't interested in Liz. We see that Chloe once tried to join the first steps, but she's easily defeated by Luke and fails the exam, so she gave up on being a hunter and became a receptionist for the association. She asks Cry why she failed her test 3 years ago, because he told her she had potential, so she wonders what she was lacking. He tells her she should already know, mentioning she could pass in her current position, but he thinks that she shouldn't, saying she has already found her place as a member of the association. After he leaves, he remembers the reason she didn't pass the test 3 years ago, and it was actually just because she was too young at the time, and he knows that if he took her now, Gark would beat him up. Chloe wonders if Cry not giving her a direct answer is one of his 1,000 trials for her to find it herself. She thinks he believes that just giving her the answer won't benefit her, so she decides to continue thinking about the real answer, and until she understands it, she will continue to fulfill her duty at the association. Arnold is shocked when Chloe tells him what Cry said about him, and the other member tells him to stay calm, saying that Cry is only trying to provoke him, but he can't believe it when she mentions Cry thinks that he only likes women with large chests. Arnold doesn't understand what Cry is trying to achieve by making them fight the 3 parties of his clan, and a member of the fallen father arrives after meeting with the parties, saying they refuse to fight them, which makes Arnold angry. They tell him they shouldn't act rashly, saying there's an auction where they can get new equipment, and they might be able to sell the strange relic that was turned down in the Land of Fog. Meanwhile, Cry and Tino go to a man named Mathis to show him a relic that Tino found. He mentions it's an outer relic, saying it's probably an item from a high-level magical tool organization, which gets Cry excited. He is curious about its effect, but Mathis notes that he can't know without activating it, so he needs to hold onto it for a while, saying he's busy with a lot of other appraisal requests since the auction is about to start. Cry wants to see the relics, so while Mathis is busy talking with Tino, he allows Cry to check them out. Mathis tells Tino to take care of herself, saying she reminds him of his granddaughter, and he mentions she should depend on her friends if something happens. He notes that even Cry can be useful sometimes, and she says that even though Cry is strict, he's a wonderful person, so compared to him, she's nothing. Mathis gets angry and asks Cry what he's teaching her, but Cry is too focused on the relics. He sees a relic called the Reverse Face, which can change the face of its user, but the one he had was destroyed by Liz, so he wants it so he can go outside without any worries. Mathis tells him to go away, saying he has a lot of work to do, but Cry tells him to contact the person who gave him the relic for approval, because he wants to deal with them directly. After that, Tino asks Cry how he's going to get the money, and he mentions that the relic isn't sold in stores since it can be used for crimes, so he can't allow such an opportunity to slip by. Tino tells him Citri is almost out of money, because she's been putting a lot of it into her research, and her potions are also expensive, which she's been giving out to the mages for free. She mentions that if the relic they got appraised is sold for a lot, all his problems will be solved, but Cry thinks about keeping it for himself if it turns out to be rare. They come across a carriage with a noble crest, and Tino mentions it's the crest of Earl Gladys's family, but she's confused by what they're doing there since they hate hunters. They see Claire meeting with Ark, who tells him she just wanted to see where Ark spends his time, and she mentions she hates hunters, but she likes Ark since he has dignity. She sees Cry staring at her, so she tells him to stop looking at her, which makes Tino angry, but Cry quickly holds her back. Ark introduces him to Claire, who says that her father has told her about him, but she notes that he seems to be weak, so she can't believe his level is higher than Ark's. She wonders if he bought his status with money, calling him rude, but she doesn't understand why he isn't saying anything to defend himself, so he mentions he tries to be careful with his behavior since he was raised without learning proper manners. After she leaves, Cry asks Ark if he has money, but he refuses to lend him any, because he knows Cry must have found another relic. Cry tells him he needs to get it, so Ark asks him about what the relic can do, but when Cry says that he can't tell him, Ark tells him he can't help him. Cry starts to ask everyone to lend him money, and a rumor spreads throughout the city that he's looking to buy a powerful relic at the auction. After seeing he has no other choice, he goes back to Citri and apologizes for asking her for more money, even though he told her he was going to pay back his debt. She notes that this is how their relationship has always been, and she says that her research will be delayed a bit, but she managed to get money by selling spare materials. She notes that since he really needs the relic, she will put her needs to the side. and she even offers to go to the bank for a loan if the money isn't enough. Cry hopes that the relic's owner doesn't demand too much for it, but he's shocked when he sees that the relic belongs to the fallen Fog. Arnold's companion tells them it's a rare relic they brought from the land of Fog, so they aren't going to sell it for cheap, but Citri tells them it's creepy looking. Arnold's companion says they will just put it for auction, but Citri mentions that the nobles don't buy relics that aren't impressive looking, so it won't be sold for a high price. Arnold mentions that they don't even know what the relic's effect is, so they can't put a price on it, but he thinks Cry must know what it can do since he's willing to buy it. Cry refuses to tell him anything, but he notes the relic is dangerous, which is why it's been restricted by law, so he tells them it's better if they just let it go, so Arnold wonders why he would want it. Arnold starts to wonder if Cry is luring them into a trap, and he thinks the relic might really be a dangerous item, so Cry is just trying to get them to keep it. He decides to sell it for 10 million gild, because he knows it's of no use to them since they don't know how to use it, and falling into Cry's trap by holding onto it would be the worst scenario, which is why he suggested a price they couldn't refuse. He thinks he has won the negotiation, but Cry asks Citri if it's okay for it to be so cheap, but she notes that they were the ones who suggested the price. As they are about to buy it, other hunters start to offer more money for it, and Claire offers 100 million to buy it. After that, Eva tells Cry that everyone thinks it's the strongest relic in the world since he was asking for loans to buy it, but Cry mentions its only use is to avoid being recognized. She tells him to stop increasing his debt, but Citri arrives with 800 million gild, which she reveals she was saving for their wedding, but Eva gets angry at her for enabling Cry, so they end up arguing. After that, Cry and Citri go to meet Claire to discuss the relic, and she admires his attitude for coming forward so openly, saying his nerves seems to rival even Ark's, but he says the only thing he has that surpasses Ark is his level. He mentions there are talks of him being Ark's rival, but he notes they aren't even on the same level, and he considers Ark his friend. She thinks he's making fun of Ark, so she takes out her sword, saying Cry must have gathered a lot of relics to reach level 8, which means his strength is fake, and she decides to win the relic and give it to Ark to help him become the strongest, but Cry tells her that Ark wouldn't be happy with it, because a relic isn't what makes a person strong. Claire starts to cry, saying she will get the relic no matter what, but Citri tells her that even though she's from the Gladys family, she doesn't have an unlimited amount of money. Citri knows that Claire only has 100 million, and she reveals that their budget is 200 million, so she should just back off, but she tells Claire if she can get more than 200 million, then they will admit defeat. Claire tells her father the situation, and he says they can't retreat because it will tarnish their family's name, so he asks his advisor named Monter how much they can spend, and he notes they can take 500 million from their family's savings, along with a 500 million loan from a company, but it will have a high interest. Claire mentions Cry's budget is only 200 million, so they only need more than that, but Monter tells her how no competitor would reveal their real budget, and Gladys tells her to win no matter what. We learn Citri has a budget of 950 million, but she isn't sure they can win. Cry tells her she has done enough, and Liz offers to steal the relic if they lose, but Citri tells her it's a bad idea since Cry would be the prime suspect. They arrive at the auction, and they meet up with Tino and the others. Cry realizes everyone is wondering about the ultimate relic that he's after, so he asks Tino to bid for him in his place. The auction begins, and as the relics are sold, Liz wonders when the mask will come out, but Cry tells her it's the last item, since there's a lot of interest around it, and Cry is disappointed he can't bid on the other items, or else he might not have enough money for the mask. A sword comes out next, and Tino looks to Cry for his signal, which makes him struggle to control his addiction, but he suddenly remembers he has a trump card. He reminds himself that it's only for an emergency, but as the next items come out, he starts losing it. He's about to make a bid, but he thinks about what Citri would think of him. He realizes she would just forgive him, so he prepares to go all out, but the next item is the Akashic Golem. He realizes Citri wants it, but she tells him not to worry, because they won't have enough money for the mask if they try to buy the golem. She tells him it's not important, but Cry can see how much it means to her, so he decides to win it for her. The bid reaches 300 million, so Citri starts to worry, but Cry thinks about how it's all really just her money. The bid reaches 500 million, but Cry keeps bidding, and he offers his entire budget of 950 million, but he still gets outbid. The golem ends up selling for 1.6 billion, and we see that Cry won it thanks to his trump card, which we learn was a check from Lucia, and he wonders if it was okay for him to use up all of his sister's savings. He talks to Tino after winning, and Gilbert wonders what he will do about the mask, but he tells them he already achieved his goal. He decides to head back early, and the auction for the mask begins, but he remembers Claire saying she would give it to Ark, so he realizes how he can still get it. He meets with Ark the next day, and he tells him to go and see Claire, telling him that the relic she won is dangerous. Ark's companion thinks Cry is being too vague, but Ark asks if he will need his weapon, and Cry tells him it would be best not to bring it. We see Claire feeling depressed, and we see her telling her father she won the auction, but Monter notes how Cry left early. They realize how much money he had, so they think he just let them win. She gets creeped out looking at the mask, and she thinks she's a loser, but it suddenly asks her if she wants power. It starts to float, calling her fitting to use its power, and it suddenly possesses her. Meanwhile, Ark meets with her father, and he tells him how Claire locked herself in her room. There's suddenly a crash, so they rush over to check it out, and they find Claire with the mask, as she throws a guard away. Ark asks her what happened, so she tells him she won the strongest relic for him, so he thanks her and asks her to take it off to give it to him, but she sees he has his sword, and Ark remembers Cry's warning about bringing his weapon. Claire starts to lose it, so Ark orders his party to prepare to fight, but warns them not to harm Claire. She refuses to lose to anyone, and she charges at Ark with a sword. Meanwhile, the Fallen Fog are happy they were able to sell the mask for 200 million, but they find Liz and Citri waiting for them. They tell them the profit they earned was all a part of Cry's plan, so they ask for a cut of the money. Arnold's companion thinks it's ridiculous, but Citri tells them she will sell them the antidote for 110 million. She asks them if they notice their drinks tasted funny, and they all suddenly feel sick, so Arnold realizes he has no other choice. Back at the clan office, Cry holds a party to thank Ark, and he gives Cry the mask. Cry is excited to have the reverse face, and Claire thanks him for sending Ark. Ark warns him it's dangerous, but he instantly puts it on. It grabs onto his face and evaluates him, but finds all his stats are too low, and he has no motivation, so he's not fit to use it, and it removes itself. Cry realizes it's not the reverse face, but thinks it's rare since it can talk, and Claire decides to just give it to him. Liz and Citri return with the money, and they all enjoy the party. Cry thinks about how Claire was able to activate the mask, so he gets depressed realizing that he must be even weaker than her. In a flashback to 5 years earlier, we see Tino as she prepares to leave her house, and she tells her guardians that she needs to go shopping. Her aunt tells her to be home early, but Tino assures her that she'll be fine, since she's already 11. The baker gives her bread, and he's impressed that she can go shopping on her own, but he warns her to be careful, since there are criminals who target children. So she becomes worried, but he assures her that she'll be fine, since there are knights who patrol the streets. She leaves the bakery, but we see two men watching her, and as she enters an alley, she bumps into one of them, so he tells her to watch where she's going. She apologizes and takes a few steps back, but she bumps into his companion, who tells her she just broke his bones, so they demand that she pay up. She starts running away, but they block her path, and she realizes that she can't escape. She becomes exhausted, and they tell her the knights don't patrol the alleys, so no one's coming to save her. They prepare to take her to their organization, but Cry suddenly appears, and he apologizes for interrupting them, telling them he wasn't expecting to see people there. His friends also arrive, and he mentions that they're the grieving souls, but one of the men tells them not to get in the way, so Luke knocks him down. The other one realizes that Luke ruined his hair, and he tries to hit Cry, but Liz kicks him away, and his companion tells him they're outnumbered, so they decide to retreat. We return to the present, as Tino mentions that Cry is like a god to her, since he appeared out of nowhere to save her. Eva is glad that she was able to get away unscathed, and Cry pretends that he went to the alley to save her, but we learn that he just happened to run into the men while he was blindly wandering around. She tells everyone about how amazing he is, but they beg her to let them go since she keeps repeating her story. Cry ignores her and asks Mathis why he doesn't listen to her, so he explains that it's because her story never ends. Cry asks him if he has appraised the relic she found, and tells him to hurry up, but he explains that he still needs to finish his other tasks before doing that. We go back to when Tino thanked Cry for saving her, and Liz wonders if the men took anything from her, so she checks her belongings and realizes that her brooch is missing. Cry tells her not to worry, since they'll take care of the criminals, and after she leaves, he tells the others that they should report the men to the association, because he knows that they're hunters. Citri wonders how he knows that, since they couldn't see anything with their masks on, so Cry pretends that he used his mind's eye, but we learn that he just made a wild guess. They meet Gark for the first time, and he notes that he heard rumors about the grieving souls, but Cry doesn't feel comfortable talking to him, since his face looks scary. Kana asks them about the men who harassed Tino, so Cry notes that they just stole her brooch, but Gark mentions that it's still a serious issue, and he starts asking questions. But Cry notes that he and his friends only heard their voices, since their masks don't have eye holes, and he thinks Tino can help the association identify the criminals. Gark mentions that it won't be easy to catch them, since there are countless hunters in the capital, but he thanks Cry for his report, and promises to work with the knights to catch the criminals. After the grieving souls leave, Gark mentions that they're still newbies, and he isn't sure if their report is reliable, since they didn't even see the men's faces. But Kana thinks it's nice to have a party with a sense of justice, and he mentions that they need to solve the case, wondering who's behind the kidnappings. Meanwhile, the criminals are angry that they failed to catch Tino, and they're worried that their organization will get rid of them if they don't hit their quota. But they know that they need to do something about the grieving souls, so they decide to take them to the organization, thinking it's the best way to get them out of the way. The next day, the criminals talk to the grieving souls, and they offer to introduce them to the organization. They mention that their boss is an influential person in the capital, but they told him about Cry and his friends, so he agreed to meet them. Cry has no idea what the men are talking about, and he doesn't even recognize them, so he decides to follow them to their hideout. They ask him what he did to their prey, thinking he must have sold her to someone, but he thinks they're referring to a monster he just defeated. So he mentions that he decided to kill it since it's damaged goods, and the men can't believe how evil he is. Cry and his friends reach the hideout, where a man welcomes them, and he notes that he'll tell the owner that they've arrived. Cry looks around, wondering what kind of organization they're dealing with, and Lucia tells him that the men who led them there are the criminals who harassed Tino. He's surprised to hear this, but he continues to act cool, and his friends think it was obvious, wondering when the criminals will start attacking them. The boss arrives and invites them to work for the organization, promising to reward them as long as they hit their quota. Cry notes that they need time to think it over, and the boss allows them to go home, but tells them to check out his merchandise first. He opens a curtain, revealing that they kidnapped a number of children, planning to sell them for a profit. Cry realizes that they're evil, and the boss notes that he plans to grow his organization, asking Cry if he wants to join them. But he refuses to work with them, so one of them shoots Luke, and the boss notes that he deserved it since he hurt one of his men. But he suddenly gets up and slices off the boss's arm, and he wonders how Luke is still alive since he got shot in the head. So he explains that his mask stopped the bullet, and his friends reveal that they spent all of their savings on their masks, which is why they're extremely durable. The boss orders his men to attack, so they open fire, but Luke deflects their bullets, and Cry's friends start taking them down. The prisoners panic as the bullets hit their cage, so Ansem protects them with his shield, and Cry covers them with the curtain, while his friends wipe out the criminals. The boss watches them as they defeat his men, and Citri throws a bomb at him to finish him off, while Cry wears his mask. He thinks everything will be okay since Gark already knows about the criminals, and he accidentally steps on something, realizing it's the brooch Tino lost. The next day, we see Cry reading the newspaper, which mentions that the organization was destroyed, and all the missing people were able to return home. He can't believe his party just took down the organization that was causing trouble in the city, but he knows that the public won't find out that they did it, since Gark is covering up for them. Citri tells him they've been summoned by the association, and they think everything will be okay since they didn't do anything wrong. They see Tino waiting for them, and she reveals that she was also summoned, since the association wants her to give a statement. Cry gives her the brooch she lost, and she thanks him for returning it, telling him she's glad to see all of them again. Back in the present, Tino calls Cry her master, and notes that she's the luckiest person in the world, since she doesn't know where she'd be if she hadn't met him. She reminds him that it's their anniversary, telling him it's been 5 years since she met the grieving souls, and she notes that she'll work hard so that she can join them. Tino takes Cry to a ruin, and shows him a giant hole, asking him if he thinks they'll find relics there. He thinks it's unlikely, and Citri agrees with him, since there's no disturbance in the mana material. But Tino still thinks they'll find something at the bottom, and Cry tells her not to overdo it, but she immediately jumps into the hole. Citri reveals that the hole was dug by the golem he bought at the auction, and Noctis's old base was built under the ruins, but the entrance is disguised as a sand rabbit's nest. She tells him they should look around, and notes that she has found the entrance, telling him they should find the Akashic Tower's research facility inside. A strange man emerges from the ground, and he mentions that he has made a wonderful discovery about the sand rabbits, but Cry wonders who he is. So he introduces himself as a rabbit researcher named Aleko, and notes that he learned something amazing. He shows Cry the sand rabbit's nest, and thinks it's proof that the creatures are highly intelligent, since they were able to create a civilization underground. He believes that the giant hole is evidence that their king has appeared, and notes that the place is their capital, but Citri thinks the rabbits didn't create a civilization, since they don't live underground. They return to the surface, but they see Tino running for her life, since a giant rabbit is chasing her, so Aleko thinks it's the king of rabbits, and he runs after it. After that, Cry returns to his office, where he learns that he has a lot of letters to read, but he tells Eva to just open them and send generic responses, telling her to turn down any requests. He tells her he's too busy to read them, and she notes that he doesn't have any plans lined up, but he explains that he needs to keep his schedule open. She wonders if he got another relic, but he mentions that he's using the one Tino found, and Mathis just finished appraising it. He reveals that it's called Mirage Form, and he can use it to create and control illusions, explaining that he can project them anywhere he wants. He creates a copy of Eva's head, and she tells him to stop, so he removes the illusion, thinking he needs to thank Tino for finding it. Meanwhile, we see Liz interrogating the hunters she captured, but she realizes that they don't know who they're working for, so Citri thinks they just accepted the job to make easy money. She thinks they should focus on the remnants of the Akashic Tower instead of interrogating the hunters, and Liz wonders if she should dispose of them, but Citri thinks they can still use them. She invites them to work for her, but they don't respond, so Liz tells them to say something and hits them. We return to Cry, as he apologizes for getting Tino in danger, but she thinks it's her fault, since she didn't realize it was another one of his trials. He offers to give her a relic to thank her for the bracelet, and Liz suggests giving her something that will make her stronger, since she isn't doing well during their training. Tino mentions that she doesn't want to rely on relics, but Liz reminds her that she ran away from a sand rabbit, so she must be extremely weak. Cry realizes that Liz has a point, so he tells Tino he'll use a relic to raise her physical abilities, and she's excited to see what he'll give her. But he shows her the mask that possessed Claire, so she becomes nervous, and he reminds her that it's so effective that Claire was able to keep up with Ark. Tino doesn't want to use it, but Liz restrains her, and the mask senses her desire to get stronger, so it wants to unleash her hidden power. Liz and Citri push her forward, and the mask attaches to her face, so Cry asks her if she's okay. She suddenly grabs onto him, and tells Liz and Citri to stay away from him, since they aren't worthy to be with him, so they become angry and prepare to take her on. After that, Gark tells Cry that Earl Gladys has a job for him, and he notes that it's dangerous, but he thinks Cry should accept it since the reward is huge. He mentions that he isn't interested, but Gark reminds him about his quota, and tells him he hasn't accepted any jobs for a while. Kana warns him that he'll get expelled from the association if he doesn't accept the job. So he realizes that he doesn't have a choice, and notes that he'll take the letter after he makes preparations. After that, Cry walks around the city, and he still doesn't want to accept the job, so he wonders how he can pass it to someone else. He runs into two strangers, and they tell him they want to talk to him, so he joins them for a cup of tea. One of them tells him to withdraw from the case, and notes that Akasha was their prey, but Cry has no idea what he's talking about. His companion tells him not to confront Cry, but he thinks it's the best way to negotiate with him, since Cry is a schemer known as the Thousand Tricks. The boy tells Cry why he shouldn't get involved with the case, but he just enjoys his tea, and he immediately agrees to withdraw from the case, since he doesn't care about it. The boy is glad that they asked him directly, but Arnold and his friends interrupt them, and he mentions that he's there for Cry. He reminds them that he won't fight them unless they defeat his clanmates, but they tell him they don't care, and note that they want to start with him. But the boy tells them not to mess with his guest, and he tells Cry that he'll deal with them to make up for his rudeness. He introduces himself as Baran, while the girl tells them she's Mary, and we learn that they're from the Hidden Curse clan. Arnold and his men know that their leader is the capital's strongest mage, but Cry mentions that he needs to go to the bathroom, and he escapes through the window, since he doesn't want to get involved. He uses his relic to make everyone think he's Ark, but he ends up causing a scene, since his head is shining. He returns to the clan office, where Eva tells him he's finally done it, since he received an invitation to the gathering of the White Blades, which will be attended by elite knights and hunters. But he isn't happy to learn about it, since he doesn't want to attend it, and he decides to go on a vacation, telling her he'll stop by the gathering if he makes it back in time. After that, Cry tells Liz and Citri about his plan to go on vacation, and they're excited to join him, asking him where they're going. So he notes that they're going to meet Luke and the gang at the Night Palace, but Citri reminds him that they still need to finish their investigation on Akasha. He realizes that it's the case Baran was talking about, so he notes that he asked the Hidden Curse to take care of it, and Liz is glad that they can leave the capital. She tells their clanmates that Cry is going on vacation, and asks them who wants to join, but they all come up with excuses since they aren't interested. Cry mentions that they shouldn't force anyone, and he thinks it would be better if everyone joined the vacation, but he doesn't want to bring a lot of people with him. Liz tells Tino to wake up, but she hides under her blanket, since she's ashamed of what she did after she wore the mask. But Liz removes her blanket and tells her to get ready, since they're going on vacation with Cry. As they prepare to leave, Citri reveals that they have helpers, and we see that it's the 3 people Liz interrogated. She tells them to introduce themselves, but they refuse to cooperate, so she presses a button to shock them, and they reveal that their names are Black, White and Gray. Liz carries Tino to the carriage, but she mentions that she doesn't want to join, since Cry will make her go through 1,000 trials, and Citri orders the helpers to prepare for departure. Meanwhile, Arnold and his friends learn that Cry went on a vacation, and they can't believe he's fleeing the city, so he decides to chase after him. Gark also learns about it, and he thinks Cry left to complete Earl Gladys's request, but he realizes that Cry left the letter. So he orders Chloe to get an escort and catch up to Cry, since he needs the letter to prove his identity. She prepares to leave with Gilbert and Ruta, but she thinks it's risky to travel since there are only a few of them, and she realizes that Arnold is also looking for Cry. That evening, Cry's clanmates realize that the Hidden Curse is about to start a war with the remnants of Akasha, and they realize they're in trouble, since they'll feel the effects of it, and Cry is out of town. We see Liz training Tino, who struggles to keep up with her, and Citri gives her the lightning rod potion, so she threatens to use it on Tino. She runs for her life, and Cry tells her to use the mask, but she refuses to wear it again, and gets struck by lightning. But Liz realizes that she can still move, so she continues their training, and Citri tells Cry not to worry, since she has a lot of healing potions. After that, Cry tells everyone that they're banned from training since they're on vacation, and he notes that they aren't allowed to do anything that will make them stronger. He tells them to avoid violence, so that they can enjoy their vacation, and they think he doesn't want them to get stronger, so that they can enjoy the thrill of their fights in the future. But he tells them that isn't the case, and he realizes that they don't know what a vacation means. Meanwhile, Chloe's group is glad that Arnold's party is with them, since they've already come across several monsters. She tells him she knows where to find Cry, revealing that he's headed to the Gladys territory, and Arnold looks forward to fighting him. We see Cry and his friends resting in a town, and Liz finds a hidden room, where she sees a love potion, but Citri tells her not to touch it. Cry realizes that Tino is acting strange, so he tells her to stop worrying since they're on vacation, but lightning suddenly strikes the city, and the alarm goes off. Liz and Citri wonder what happened, and they think about going outside, but he assures them that they'll be fine as long as they stay there, since he believes that the knights can handle it. Arnold and the others reach the town, but they realize that it's on fire, and a guard reveals that a lightning spirit is attacking them. They wonder what an elemental is doing there, and they know that it's stronger than a thunder dragon, so they realize they're in trouble. Arnold thinks Cry must have summoned it, and Chloe prepares to take it on, but he realizes that her hand is shaking, so he tells her to stand back. But Gilbert and Ritter remind him that they're also hunters, so they want to fight it, and everyone charges at the lightning spirit, but Arnold wonders why Cry isn't showing himself. Everyone struggles against the spirit, so they start to lose hope, thinking they don't stand a chance, but Arnold's friends tell them it's too early to give up. He rides a horse to close the distance, and he lunges at the spirit, attacking it with everything he's got. The next day, Cry and the others see the damage caused by the spirit, and the guard tells them what happened, so Liz thinks it's a shame, since she would have wanted to have fought it. The guard notes that a party of high-level hunters defeated it, so nobody died during the incident, and Cry is glad that they were there, since he was able to sleep like a log. After that, Arnold realizes that Cry just left the town, and Chloe mentions that she talked to a guard, who told her that Cry was able to sleep like a log thanks to them. So Arnold becomes furious, and he tells everyone they should leave immediately, so that they can catch up to Cry. We see Liz and Citri fighting over who gets to sit next to Cry, and Citri threatens to use a potion that attracts monsters, but he takes it and throws it away, telling them to stop fighting. He notes that their next destination is the town of Gula, and Tino wonders why they're going there, so he reveals that he wants to visit a cafe that's famous for its parfaits. Liz and Citri mention that they aren't interested in sweets, but Tino can't relax, since she thinks he's planning to test her again. They reach the town of Gula, where they see a red flag, and a guard orders everyone to line up, but Citri uses her charm and asks him what's happening. So he reveals that there's a horde of orcs in the nearby mountains, and the guards think their town is doomed if they attack, so they decided to call for reinforcements. Liz also tries to charm him, telling him she's afraid, but he tells her not to worry, since they'll take care of everything. The girls start praising him, and Cry realizes they're having fun, but Tino is still paranoid, and she wonders if he'll use the orcs to test her. He tells her they should have a chocolate parfait tomorrow, but she thinks he's using the term parfait as a codename for orcs, so she's about to decline. But Liz and Citri convince her to join him, and she can't refuse since she's afraid of them. That evening, the helpers think about escaping, but they realize that Killiam and the Malice Eater are watching them. They hear the orcs in the mountains, so the Malice Eater flies away with Killiam, and they start slaughtering the orcs, so their leader panics and orders them to retreat. Meanwhile, Cry tells Tino he's excited to eat chocolate parfaits tomorrow, but she's nervous since she thinks he's referring to orc blood. He eats ice cream after he takes a bath, and he asks Tino if she wants to taste it, but she doesn't even want to look at it, since she thinks he killed orcs to drink their blood. He rests on his bed, but Liz tells him she wants to sleep beside him, so Citri comes out of hiding, and tells her to stay away from him. We learn that the bathroom is connected to his bedroom, and Liz realizes that Citri was also planning to make her move, but he ignores them and goes to sleep. Arnold and the others find the potion that attracts monsters, and they wonder who left it there, but they see the horde of orcs approaching, so they prepare for battle. They realize that the orcs are injured, so they wonder what's happening, but Arnold tells them to be careful, since he can sense that something's wrong. The orcs go berserk, and they charge in, so Arnold and the others defend themselves, but it suddenly rains fire, and the orcs get wiped out. They realize that a fire spirit has appeared, and Arnold is angry that he needs to fight countless creatures just to reach Cry. The next day, Cry takes Tino to the cafe, but she thinks everyone around her is an orc, and he tells her Liz's training is tough, but he thinks she's doing well. He assures her that Liz and Citri aren't bullying her, and she mentions that she already knows that, but she asks him about his trial, telling him she can't take it anymore. She wonders when the orcs will show up, but he has no idea what she's talking about, and she starts to lose it. But she hears two girls talking about how the orcs have been burned to a crisp, and she apologizes to Cry, since she didn't believe him when he said they're going on a vacation. The people take down the red flag, and they welcome Arnold as their hero, since his party defeated the orcs and the fire spirit. But he wonders why he had to fight so many monsters, since he just wanted to catch up to Cry. Cry and his friends realize that the people are welcoming their hero, and they see that it's Arnold, so Liz calls out to him, and thanks him for defeating the monsters. He becomes angry hearing this, and she leaves with Cry, while Arnold tries to follow them, but a group of women crowd around him, and they work together to push him down. Cry escapes with his friends, and he realizes that Arnold will come after them, but Citri thinks he won't catch up to them. Cry realizes that his vacation has been ruined, and he thinks they should avoid the main roads so that they can escape from Arnold. So he tells everyone they'll pass over the mountains, and Liz and Citri think the real vacation is about to begin, but Tino is worried, since she knows that there are dangerous monsters in the mountains. They continue their journey, while Killiam and the Malice Eater slaughter the monsters in their path, and Citri tells Cry about the lost giant demons, which live in the mountains. She notes that they're like ogres, but there are only a few eyewitness accounts about them, since the hunters that fight them don't usually live to tell the tale. Liz mentions that she wants to fight outside, but she notes that Cry told them they aren't allowed to use violence, so he tells her it's okay to defeat monsters. She invites Tino to hunt monsters with her, and Cry tells her to use the mask, but she rushes outside since she doesn't want to wear it again. After they defeat the monsters, Liz mentions that she feels better, and Citri notes that it's finally starting to feel like a real vacation, but we see that Tino and the helpers are exhausted. They reach a fork in the road, where they see a sign that points to the left, and the helpers think it looks suspicious, but Cry decides to follow it, since he thinks the path looks nice. Meanwhile, Arnold's friend wonders why they always run into danger, and Chloe thinks it's because of Cry's trials, revealing that he's famous for testing hunters to help them improve. The man doesn't believe that the orcs and elementals were a part of his plan, but Gilbert and Rita mention that they've seen what Cry is capable of, so they think he can pull it off. We return to Cry, who thinks they made the right choice, since they haven't seen monsters after they turned left. He suggests setting up camp to spend the night there, and Citri mentions that she'll prepare dinner for everyone, telling him it's been a while since they last camped outside with him. He leaves to get water, and Liz decides to go with him, which makes Citri jealous. Cry reaches a lake, where he starts getting water, but Liz suddenly takes out a monster and greets him. He combs her hair, and she's glad that she decided to go with him, telling him she'll do her best to make Tino stronger. She enjoys her moment with him, but they suddenly hear an explosion, and she's angry that it ruined the mood. We see Killiam fighting a monster, and Tino tries to stab it from behind, but it suddenly disappears. It's about to hit her, but Liz blocks its attack, and Citri recognizes it as a lost giant demon. She reveals that it disguised the road to make it look safe, but the demon has been following them ever since they entered its territory, and it throws a rock at Cry. But Liz catches it, and throws it back with tremendous force, sending the demon crashing into the rocks. But she realizes that it's still alive, and Citri notes that it's resistant to physical attacks, thinking it won't leave them alone since it's persistent. But Cry notes that there's no need to stay and fight, so they decide to escape before the demon recovers. Arnold's group reaches the fork in the road, and he sees a drawing on a rock, which makes him think Liz is taunting him. Chloe notes that the road to the right is safer, and thinks taking the other route won't save them much time, but Arnold decides to go left anyway, since he knows that he can find Cry there. Liz notes that the demon is still following them, and Citri reveals that lost giant demons like their prey to suffer, thinking they can escape if they use someone as bait. But she doesn't want to sacrifice her helpers since she finds them useful, so she thinks about using her potion, saying they can escape while the demon tortures the monsters it attracts. But she notes that they need to be ready in case the monsters attack them instead, and Cry thinks they'll be fine, but Tino is worried that they might die. After that, we learn that their plan didn't go well, and they set up camp after they defeat the monsters, but Citri notes that they can no longer sense the demon. Tino can't relax since she's afraid of the shadows, but Cry tells her to hold onto the mask, thinking it might help her in the future. But they suddenly hear the helpers screaming as the Malice Eater approaches them, and Cry thinks they've already suffered enough. Black gets water for the Malice Eater and starts complaining about her job, but she sees Cry talking to Citri, who's holding onto a key. Arnold's group sees Cry's camp, and they think it's a trap, but Arnold still wants to check it out. The demon sees him and realizes that he's a capable fighter, thinking he might be able to defeat Liz, so it decides to lead him to Cry. Arnold sees its shadow and thinks it must be Liz, so he chases after it. Cry and his friends see Arnold's group approaching, but they aren't worried, and the demon appears disguised as Arnold. But Cry realizes that it looks weird, and he starts asking it questions, since he wants to know if it's really Arnold. But it becomes angry and threatens to kill him, which makes Cry think it really is Arnold, and it starts throwing a tantrum, so Cry apologizes for everything he did in the past. The real Arnold appears, but Cry thinks he's the imposter, so he becomes furious and attacks Cry, but his relic protects him. Arnold is surprised that he was able to reflect his strongest swing, and the demon tries to leave, but Liz and Citri get in the way, so it removes its disguise and prepares to take them on. Cry can't believe it was actually the imposter, and Arnold is angry that he fell for its tricks, so he prepares to strike with his lightning sword. But Cry sees Tino behind him, so he hugs her as his relic protects him, and Arnold realizes that his attacks have no effect. He asks Cry why he doesn't fight back, so he explains that it's because he has faith, but Arnold thinks his answer makes no sense, and we learn that he was just trying to sound cool. But his relic appears to have reached its limit, and Arnold is about to finish him off, but Tino sweeps his leg, so he tells her to get out of the way. She mentions that she'll protect her master, and he tells her she's no match for him, but she wears the mask to improve her abilities. It tries to take over her body, but she manages to control it, and her body transforms as she gets stronger. She pushes Arnold back, and Cry is impressed that she was able to do that, thinking she's like a superhero. Tino wakes up in the carriage, and Cry tells her not to move, since her body couldn't handle the relic's power. He reveals that she was able to keep up with Arnold, but she's still lost to him since he's stronger than her, and she wonders what happened to the demon. So Liz reveals that they defeated it, but it kept reviving, so they decided to leave while Arnold's group was fighting it. Tino is sad that she lost the fight, but Cry tells her it's okay, revealing that Liz also lost countless times before she became an excellent hunter. He thinks she'll improve in the future, and she's determined to get stronger, so that she can join as a member of the Grieving Souls. We see that the demon has been defeated, and Chloe thinks about everything that happened, realizing everyone got stronger thanks to the monsters they fought. She knows that Arnold's party has become popular thanks to the villages they saved, and she thinks it's all thanks to Cry, since his trials helped them improve. Arnold notes that they should continue to chase Cry after they fix their carriage, and Chloe thinks he's going to the Night Palace, so they decide to go there. They realize that the place is terrifying, but Chloe is sure that Cry must have came there, since the Grieving Souls have been trying to complete it for a long time. So they decide to explore the palace, but we learn that Cry and his friends actually went to relax at a hot spring. As Cry enjoys himself, he thinks the place is perfect, but he wonders why they're the only guests at the hotel. He recalls how Citri told him that there's a bandit gang in the area, which is why people are avoiding it, but he thinks it's a blessing, since he has the place all to himself. He suddenly hears someone singing at the outdoor bath, so he decides to check it out, and he sees a dragon relaxing. He remembers how Liz invited him to hunt a hot spring dragon with her, and he wonders if it's the creature she was referring to, but he thinks it's just the hotel owner's pet. He thinks he shouldn't show fear, so he joins it in the pool, but it becomes upset and attacks him. We see Citri and Tino taking a bath, but they suddenly hear Cry screaming for help, and we see that he survived thanks to his safety ring. The girls arrive, and Tino wonders why he called for help, but Citri tells her he's just testing her, since he wants to see if she can defeat the dragon. Citri tells the dragon that Tino will take it on, so it prepares to fight, but she notes that she can't move properly while she's wearing a towel. The dragon attacks her with its water breath, so she jumps away, and she thinks Cry is testing her courage, so she rushes forward, but she becomes embarrassed as her towel falls off. After that, we see that she has defeated the dragon, and Liz notes that it's just a baby, but Cry tells her it's still a dragon. So she calls Tino a dragon slayer, and she notes that her skills improved after she put on the mask, but Cry mentions that he wasn't expecting to see a dragon there. Citri thinks it was drawn to the place since it no longer had visitors, and Liz suggests eating it to celebrate, so it becomes nervous as the girls talk about cutting it into pieces. But Cry is against the idea, so the dragon is grateful to him, and the girls can't believe he was able to tame it, but we see Gray hiding as he watches them. As Cry walks around the hotel, Gray suddenly approaches him, and notes that Cry is beyond his comprehension, so he decides to come clean. He shows him the key that Black and White used to escape, and reveals that they stole it while the girls were taking a bath, but he refused to go with them. He notes that they're heading to the Gladys territory, and Cry thinks it's a shame that they left early, since he and the girls were planning to set them free, and he tells Gray to feel free to do what he wants. Cry and the girls walk around the town, and they see a giant hole, which makes them think the people were digging for another hot spring, but it was cancelled because of the bandit gang. Liz suggests getting rid of them, but he reminds her that they're on vacation, and they realize that all of the stores are closed. But she notices that one of them is open, and he realizes that it sells demi-human buns, which makes them wonder what demi-humans are. So Citri explains that they're strange humanoid creatures that are said to appear in this area, and she thinks they live underground. They continue to look around the town, but they're surprised to see Arnold, who appears to be injured, and he becomes angry when he sees Cry, but he suddenly collapses. After that, Cry talks to Arnold's companions, and he can't believe they went into the Night Palace, since the place is level 8. We go back to when their party was in the Night Palace, and we see that they were able to defeat countless monsters, but high-level phantoms appeared and started beating them up. Arnold is the only one who can keep up with them, but he realizes that he's outnumbered. So he tells everyone to hide, while he smashes the ground to create a smoke screen, and they're able to escape by hiding under the corpses. We return to the present, as Arnold's companions mention that they wouldn't have survived without him, and they feel guilty since they pushed him past his limit. Chloe tells Cry to forgive him, since she thinks he's already learned his lesson, and Cry notes that he hasn't done anything yet. But Arnold's companions misunderstand him, thinking he's been testing them all along, so he tells them they can call it even, and they're glad it's finally over. Chloe gives him a request from Earl Gladys, telling him he'll need it to enter the Gladys territory, but he just gives it to Citri, and notes that he doesn't want to take it on. She realizes that it's a request to wipe out the Barrel Bandit gang, which is a dangerous group that has 100 members, and Gilbert tells Cry to get rid of them. But Citri notes that they only target powerful opponents, and she thinks they have already left the Gladys territory since they're afraid of Cry. He has no idea what she's talking about, but he decides to roll with it, and thinks the place will get lively after the bandit gang disappears. Arnold has a nightmare about the Night Palace, and when he wakes up, he hears his friends talking about how they've settled the score with Cry, since they think Arnold is no match for him. He walks around the town, as he notes that he has lost faith in himself, and he wonders if it's time to retire as a hunter. He sees the hot springs, and prepares to take a bath, thinking the place is perfect for him since he wants to be left alone. But he realizes that Cry is in the water, and he tells Arnold that they met by coincidence, but he thinks Cry is there to mock him, so he becomes furious. He notes that a level 8 hunter shouldn't be in a hot spring, and Cry mentions that he'll listen to him if he has problems, but Arnold tells him he'll never share anything with him. He notes that he's had enough, and decides not to retire, telling Cry he'll start over and make him regret mocking his party. After he leaves, he returns to his party and tells them it's time to train, since they need to do whatever it takes to defeat Cry. So they realize that their vacation is over, but they're glad that he's back to his usual self. That evening, Cry makes his way back to the hotel, but he realizes that the giant hole is glowing, and a demi-human comes out of it. She approaches him, but he tells her he needs to go to sleep, and starts walking away, as he wonders why there are strange creatures living in the town. But she restrains him with her hair, and jumps back into the hole with him. The next day, Tino tells the others that Cry hasn't returned yet, but they don't seem to care, and they tell her to have faith in him. They hear someone approaching, and they think it's Cry, so Liz launches the ball towards the door, but a girl catches it. They realize that she's a ninja, and she asks them about Cry, so they think she wants to kill him, and prepare to take her on. She creates copies of herself, and Tino realizes that they're outnumbered, but Killiam and the Malice Eater appear, so she's confident that they can defeat the ninja. But she takes people hostage, threatening to kill them if the girls try anything, and they immediately surrender, since they think Cry will be angry if the hostages end up dying. Arnold's party prepares to leave, and he bids Chloe farewell, but he suddenly gets attacked. He realizes that they're surrounded, but he passes out because of the poison, which is said to be so potent that it can even take down a mythical beast. The ninja reveals that they're the Barrel Bandit gang, and their goal is to defeat the strongest hunter, telling everyone their plan is going well, since they were able to capture Cry. They surround the town with a stone wall, and we learn that they were planning to retreat from the Gladys territory, but they ran into Black and White, who told them that Cry is in the town. They think Barrel will become the greatest after they execute him, and their leader wants to meet Cry, but a ninja mentions that they're pursuing a woman who has escaped. The leader punches him away, and his partner tells the ninjas not to let anyone get away, so they start searching for the woman, and we see Chloe hiding on top of a tree. The leader is mad that they got the wrong person, and his partner thinks Cry used a decoy, but he knows that Liz and Citri are the real deal. So he thinks Cry is still in the town, and he orders the ninjas to look for him, but we see him at the bottom of the pit, where the demi-human watches over him. Barrel gathers everyone in one spot, and Gilbert suggests beating them up, but Citri notes that they can't do anything, since Cry will be angry if people end up dying. Arnold screams in pain because of the poison, so she kicks his pressure point, and it instantly makes him feel better. Cry wakes up at the bottom of the pit, and he sees demi-humans approaching, so he comes up with a plan. He uses his relic to disguise himself as a demi-human, and it appears to be working, but he asks them where they're going, and they can't understand what he's saying, since they're using a different language. They find him suspicious, so he tries to speak in their language, and they seem to understand him, but he can't believe that it actually worked. He realizes that there's a city under the town, and he finds it amazing, but he doesn't want to stay there since it's too hot. They lead him to an arena, where a warrior prepares to fight him, and he tries to talk his way out, but the warrior attacks him. A barrier blocks the attack, and he uses a relic that Chris enchanted to freeze the warrior, which shocks everyone. Several demi-humans join the fight, and he decides to use the ring Citri gave him, but he doesn't even know what it does. It creates a gas that stops the demi-humans, so he thinks it worked, but it ends up making them stronger, and he realizes that he just buffed them. But the girl who captured him is impressed by his powers, and she becomes interested in him. A ninja tells the leader that they can't find Cry, but his partner knows that he's still in the town, and he mentions that he has a plan. He uses a speaker to make an announcement, and tells Cry to stop hiding, threatening to kill hostages if he doesn't show himself. So everyone becomes nervous, but Liz mentions that she's getting bored, and she breaks her restraints, saying she no longer cares if the hostages die. But everyone hears an explosion, as demi-humans emerge from the ground, and one of them approaches Gilbert, so Liz saves him and starts beating them up. Citri uses her gun to heal Arnold, and tells him to free the hostages, so he smashes a demi-human to the ground. His friend gives him his sword, and he mentions that he'll cut his way out of there, which gets everyone fired up. The Barrel Gang struggles to deal with the demi-humans, who suddenly start cheering as their champion appears. The girls notice that Cry is with them, and Citri recognizes them as cave people, revealing that she can understand that language. She hears the girl announcing that they're dedicating their victory to their king, and they no longer fear the malevolent god, but Citri doesn't know who she's referring to. The girl mentions that Cry displayed his power and showed them mercy, so he has proven himself worthy to become their king, but Citri is jealous since she's touching him. He tries to ask the girl where they're going, but ends up telling her to kill everyone and conquer the world, which makes Citri wonder what he's up to. Liz calls out to him, but the girl tells him to show them the way, and Citri sees the symbol on her head, realizing she's their princess. Cry tries to tell her that the girls are his friends, but Citri wonders if he's on their side, since he just told the princess to leave no survivors. Citri wonders if he has fallen for the princess, and she starts cursing him, reminding him that he still owes her money. She thinks he wants to marry the princess to become king, and notes that she would have conquered a country for him, telling him she's done with him. But he wonders why she's angry, and his disguise disappears, as he realizes that his relic ran out of mana. The princess pushes him away, and he crashes to the ground, where he sees Citri waiting for him, so he tells her he's back. She hugs him and welcomes him back, but the princess tells her minions that their king is dead, and orders them to kill everyone and destroy the town. So they start going on a rampage, but there's suddenly an earthquake, and a giant hot spring dragon appears. The princess approaches Cry and talks to him, so Citri realizes that the dragon is the malevolent god she was referring to, and it releases high-pressure steam, which almost hits Cry and the girls. He tells the princess to go home, since the place is too dangerous, so she cries and hugs him, before ordering her minions to retreat. Citri thinks Cry's plan is to use the cave people to deal with Beryl, and summon the dragon to force them to retreat, telling him his plan is brilliant. Tino wonders how they'll deal with the dragon, and it threatens to destroy the town with its energy breath, but the baby dragon approaches it and starts talking to it. Liz wonders if Citri can understand them, so she reveals that she can't, but the dragon stops charging up its breath and flies away, and Tino realizes that it's the baby's parent. Everyone's shocked by what happened, and the baby dragon shows Cry how much it loves him, before leaving the town. The girls think everything went according to his plan, and they can't believe he was able to predict everything, but Tino reminds them that the bandits still have hostages. She suddenly turns into a frog, and Citri thinks the situation is serious, since Lucia appears to be angry. We see that the ninjas also turned into frogs, and their leader wonders what's happening, but the stone wall suddenly shatters, as Ansem makes his entrance. Lucia and Luke also appear, and the leader asks them who they are, but he notices that they're wearing skull masks, so he realizes they're with the grieving souls. Luke approaches the leader and his partner, and tells Lucia she wasn't able to turn them into frogs, so she becomes upset, telling him it's difficult to cast the spell over a wide area. The leader and his partner think they will be famous if they defeat the grieving souls, and Luke mentions that he was supposed to talk to them first, since Cry taught him to talk things out before attacking. but he reveals that he has already cut them, and they suddenly start bleeding, so Cry rushes towards them, and he's mad that Luke didn't go easy on them. But he explains that he only used a wooden sword, and the leader's partner collapses, so Cry begs Ansem to treat their wounds. Luke thinks Cry wants Ansem to heal them so that he can keep cutting them down, but Cry explains that it isn't the case, telling him he should try to talk things out before drawing his sword. Arnold has no idea what's happening, and Tino starts crying, since she doesn't know how to turn back into a human. Lucia explains that she doesn't know a spell that can undo the transformation, and reminds Cry that he told her to turn strong people into frogs, but she notes that her spell only works on weaklings. But he tells her she should have turned her targets into toads instead, so she notes that he never told her that, and she shows him the book he wrote, telling him it doesn't mention anything about toads. He asks her how to reverse the transformation, so she tells him he just needs to kill the frogs, and she burns Tino with her spell, causing her to return to her human form. She tells him she was afraid, since she thought she would be a frog forever, but Liz tells her they need to continue their training so that she won't turn into a frog next time. The authorities arrest the bandits, and their leader mentions that he'll get revenge, saying he'll make the grieving souls regret showing them mercy. Arnold's party bids Chloe farewell, and he thinks about everything that happened, wondering if it was all part of Cry's plan. Cry thanks his friends for coming, and notes that the grieving souls is only missing one member, but Luke is mad since he didn't see the dragon and cave people. Lucia reveals that they've been searching for Cry, and notes that they had to clean up his mess when they arrived, but he tells her she missed out since she was late, which only makes her more mad. Cry recalls the moment that the grieving souls got lost, and they ended up in a level 10 treasure vault called the Peregrine Lodge, where a giant fox destroyed them, but Cry begged the monster to let them go, and explained that they had just wandered into the place by accident, so the fox decided to spare them. We return to the present, as the grieving souls make their way back to the capital, and Cry notes that it's been 3 weeks since they left, so he thinks the gathering of the White Blades is over. He gives Eva hot spring dragon eggs, but notes that they're just regular eggs with a unique name, and he reveals that he also gave them to Sven, but Cry wonders why he seems to be angry. She tells him about a war that broke out in the capital, where an Akasha mage summoned a lightning elemental in the middle of the city. So a powerful mage called Abyssal Inferno called forth a fire elemental to defeat it, but the city wasn't damaged, since both elementals were already exhausted when they were summoned. Eva reminds Cry about the gathering of the White Blades, and reveals that it was postponed because of the war, so it will be held 3 days from now. He tries to come up with excuses since he doesn't want to attend, but she explains that they have already prepared everything for him, and tells him he's only allowed to bring one companion. Liz and Citrus suddenly appear with a tuxedo, but they fight over who will join him at the event, and Tino mentions that she wants to attend the gathering with him. But she's afraid of Liz and Citri, so she notes that she didn't say anything, and Luke also wants to join him, since he thinks he'll find a worthy opponent in the event. Cry decides to go with Eva, who tells him she'll take care of everything for him, so all he needs to do is smile. He mentions that her dress looks great on her, but she asks him about the bags he brought with him, so he explains that he'll use dragon eggs to bribe the nobles, since he knows that their party has a bad reputation. He notes that he got Lucia to cast a preservation spell on the eggs, so that they won't go bad before he gives them away, but Eva wonders if he's taking the event seriously. At the gathering, Cry sees nobles greeting a maid, and he gives her dragon eggs as a gift, but she's shocked when she finds out what they're called, and the guards suddenly surround him. The guard captain Franz asks him what he's thinking, and reveals that the maid is actually the Imperial Princess Marina. He thinks the dragon eggs are dangerous, and Cry explains that it isn't the case, but notes that he needs to go to the bathroom, which makes Franz angry. But Claire mentions that Cry should be treated as an honored guest, since he saved the capital from the Akashic Tower, so Franz orders the guards to let him go. We see Ark and Gark in the event, and they aren't surprised that Cry already caused a scene, while Eva tells him that it's the Empire's tradition for the princess to dress as a maid. He thanks Claire for saving him, but she tells him not to think about it, and notes that she still owes him for everything he's done for her. The Emperor thanks his guests for attending the event, and tells them to enjoy themselves, since they have brought prosperity to the Zabridia Empire. Cry looks around, and realizes that Citri is also at the gathering, but a hand suddenly touches him, and he sees Liz and Tino hiding under a table. Lucia walks past him, and he realizes that she's serving the guests as a maid, while Luke is one of the guards, but the other guards restrain him since he's looking for someone to cut down. Eva tells Cry about the Empire's tradition and explains that the princess dresses up as a maid so that the Emperor can use her to test hunters. Cry gives Liz and Tino food and drinks, but Franz notices him, so he asks him who's hiding under the table. Cry becomes nervous and points to a random direction to distract Franz, but everyone's surprised to see an intruder there. Liz jumps into action and kicks the intruder away, and Luke pins it to the ceiling with his sword, while Lucia uses her rock coffin to trap it. Ansem comes out of hiding, and we learn that his armor is a relic that allows him to shrink and grow, so he uses it to return to his original size and smashes the intruder. But it tries to escape, and Abyssal Inferno mentions that she's had enough, so Ark tells everyone to get down, as she blasts the intruder with her flames. Cry notes that he would have died if it weren't for his safety ring, but he starts enjoying the food, and mentions that it's his first time eating roasted chocolate. After that, Cry is glad that the gathering is finally over, and Citri wonders why Liz sneaked into the event, but she tells Citri she was useless when the intruder showed up, so they start arguing. But Tino tells them to calm down, and Liz wonders what the intruder was, since she didn't feel anything when she kicked it, and Citri thinks it belongs to a giant crime syndicate called Fox. Franz reports to the Emperor, and he apologizes for allowing the intruder to slip in, but the Emperor tells him it's okay, and notes that nobody was injured. But he explains that they need to investigate how the fox got inside, and Franz mentions that they'll appraise the dragon eggs Cry gave them, since they could attract the mother dragon if they're real. The next day, Cry learns that a dragon attacked the capital last night, but Eva notes that it has already been defeated, and Luke suddenly arrives with the dragon's head. He reveals that he was the one who defeated it, and he wants to show it to Cry, but she tells him to keep it in the bag. He tells Cry that the Empire's higher-ups want to talk to him, so he leaves Luke in the room, and tells him to do whatever he wants. Cry and Eva meet the higher-ups, and Franz reveals that a young crimson dragon attacked the castle last night, but he knows that dragons don't attack humans for no reason. So he knows that it wants something in the castle, but he reveals that Cry's dragon eggs were appraised, and he learned that they were just hot spring eggs. He believes that someone was trying to frame Cry, and thinks the culprit was also in the gathering, but he knows that dragons aren't easy to control. He thinks he needs to share a top secret with everyone, but he takes out a lie detector, and tells Cry he doesn't trust him, so he must first confirm his innocence. He touches the crystal, as he notes that he doesn't hate Zabrudia, and the crystal confirms that he's telling the truth. Abyssal Inferno follows suit, and the crystal reveals that she isn't lying, so Franz realizes that he can trust them. He reveals that the fox is threatening Zabrudia, and thinks they're responsible for the dragon attack, but Cry thinks he's referring to the giant fox he saw in the Peregrine Lodge. Franz notes that the Emperor will travel next month, and they're worried that the fox might attack them, so Franz tells Cry to help them protect the Emperor, and offers to give him a relic if he accepts the job. Franz shows him the relic, and he immediately takes a liking to it, so he accepts the job without considering anything else. We see that the relic was a flying carpet, but when Cry tries to ride it, it smashes him into a wall. Lucia tells him it doesn't like him, and he decides to call it Carpi, but it hits him since it doesn't like the name. She reminds him about their next assignment, so he talks to Eva about it, and she notes that they need 5 people to protect the Emperor. He decides to send 5 of his friends to complete the mission, but she explains that he needs to participate, since the Emperor personally requested him for the job. He doesn't want to pick companions from his party, since his friends will feel left out, so he decides to assemble the dream team. Cry invites Gark to join him, but he reminds Cry that he's already retired, and tells him to pick only the best hunters for the job. But Cry tells Kana to help him guard the Emperor, so Gark gets upset and kicks him out of the room. Kana immediately apologizes for what happened, explaining that Gark lost it since he's tired, and she gives Cry a list of high-level hunters. He goes through the list, and he asks Kana about the hunter named Kachaka, but she doesn't even recognize him. Cry invites Abyssal Inferno to join him, but she reveals that the Empire placed her under house arrest since she blew up the castle during the assembly. She thinks he was the one who weakened the elementals when she fought the Akasha Mage, and he notes that he has no idea what she's talking about. But she's convinced that he did it to save the capital, so she thanks him for minimizing the damage. Baran knows that the mission is important, so he suggests recommending a mage from their clan, and she decides to go with his suggestion. She notes that they should pick their best mage for the job, so she calls the Vice Clan Master Telm, who's already at level 7, and Cry accepts him into his team. After that, Cry thinks about how he doesn't even know the companions he picked, and he considers picking members that he knows personally. Lapis and Chris suddenly approach him, and he invites Chris to join him, but she tells him she isn't interested. So he asks Lapis instead, who pushes Chris into him, telling her to help him since he's Lucia's brother. Cry thinks about who he should pick as his last teammate, and Citri knows that he doesn't want to choose a member of the Grieving Souls, so she tells him to take Killiam with him. She reveals that it's capable of acting alone, but she tells Cry he needs to use a controller to turn it on, and notes that it's the perfect companion since it will never betray him. Cry visits Franz with his team, but he's angry since their lineup isn't balanced, asking Cry why they have 3 mages. He notes that it's the best team he can come up with, but Franz wonders if they can trust his teammates, since he thinks they might be working for the Fox. So Cry assures him that it's impossible, since he thinks the giant fox would never work with humans. Chris notes that everything will be fine since she's in the group, and she claims that she can complete the mission alone, so Cry wonders if he can just leave everything to her. She becomes upset hearing this, since he wants her to do his job for him, but he gives her tea to calm her down. He notes that his lineup is perfect, and tells Franz to find someone else for the job if he doesn't like it, but he mentions that he won't return the flying carpet. The members of the Grieving Souls discuss how they should support Cry, and Citri notes that she wasn't able to do a background check on his companions, but she sent Killiam to help gather intel. She notes that the fox wants to kill the Emperor, and Luke asks her if she's referring to the 13-tailed fox that defeated them, but she explains that she's talking about a giant crime syndicate. She reveals that their goal is to destroy society, and their appearance at the gathering is a declaration of war against Zabridia. But Cry's friends don't care if the Emperor dies, and they only want to make the fox pay for trying to frame Cry. That evening, Franz reports to the Emperor, and tells him he isn't sure if they can trust Cry's team. But the Emperor reminds him that the lie detector already proved Cry's innocence, and he thinks Cry already knows the fox's next move, which is probably the reason why he's acting strangely. The next day, Cry meets Kachaka, and realizes that he looks sus, but he still thinks they can be friends. Franz asks him why he looks like he's about to go on vacation, so he explains that his outfit is a relic, which protects him from all kinds of conditions. Franz tells him to do his job, since he received his payment up front, and he tells Franz not to be mad if anything happens during the mission, since he tends to attract all kinds of things. Everyone rides their horses as they prepare to travel, but Chris wonders why Cry doesn't have one, so he explains that he turned it down. He takes out his flying carpet and gets onto it, but it slams him against the wall, so Chris allows him to ride with her. We see Cry's friends as they finish beating up a group of mercenaries, and Citri thinks the fox hired them, but she tells the others that they need to clean up before Cry's team arrives. That evening, Franz notes that nothing happened the entire day, and Cry tells him they can't let their guard down, since the day isn't over yet. Franz asks him what he thinks will happen, and he sees a picture of a dragon, so he notes that a dragon might attack them. As Chris recharges Cry's relics, she tells him it's impossible that dragons will attack them, since they don't just show up out of nowhere. He explains that he just said it since Franz wanted an answer, and he eats the chocolate he found in front of his room, thinking it must be a present. He sees a letter from Citri, and he wonders how she found out where his room is, but they suddenly hear people screaming that dragons are attacking them. Cry doesn't seem to care, so Chris reminds him that they need to protect the Emperor and drags him away, but he thinks Citri is behind everything since she heard what he said. They see a frigid dragon taking down the knights, and Cry's friends watch a number of dragons as they approach the building, but we learn that Citri only sent 11 of them using her potion. So she wonders why they keep coming, and we see Kachaka calling the dragons, since he's actually working for the fox. Chris attacks the dragon with her fire magic, but it doesn't work, so the knights hold it back, telling her to protect the Emperor. When they reach him, they realize that he's safe, but Franz asks them what's going on. So Cry notes that the fox is behind the attack, but he really thinks Citri sent the dragons there, and they see another wave approaching. He decides to use his relic to deal with them, but he realizes that he forgot to bring it, and the dragons start attacking. But a barrier suddenly appears, and everyone thinks he summoned it, but he realizes that it was Ansem. The dragons are sucked into a water vortex created by Telm, and he uses his magic to crush all of them. Everyone thinks Cry picked Telm for his team since he already predicted everything, and they see the intruder behind Telm. Franz calls it the fox, but Cry wonders why it looks different from the 13-tailed fox he met, thinking it must be an imposter. Telm attacks with his water balls, and it starts to close the distance, so Telm summons a giant water ball to crush them, leaving a crater in the ground, but he realizes that they were able to get away. Everyone talks about what happened, but Chris wonders why Cry called the fox an imposter, and Franz asks him if he knows something. Telm is shocked hearing this, and Cry notes that he didn't say anything, but Chris knows that he's lying. Telm changes the topic and reminds everyone that they need to protect the Emperor, but he thinks the journey is getting dangerous, so Franz suggests heading back. But Cry still thinks Citri was behind the attack, and he's worried that she'll get exposed if they return to the capital, so he tells everyone they need to push forward. He explains that they're strong enough to deal with the enemies, so there's no need to worry, and he convinces everyone that no dragons will attack them if they continue their journey. After that, Kachaka thinks about how Cry ruined his plan, and we learn that he was watching him when the barrier appeared. He wonders why Cry gave him a thumbs up after he stopped the attack, but Kachaka thinks he just needs to continue following his orders, and decides to summon more dragons. Everyone continues their journey, but Cry realizes that he forgot Carpi, so he tells Chris they need to go back. We see Tino screaming as a dragon chases after her, but Liz tells her it's just a weakling, and kills it with a single hit. Lucia wonders why dragons keep showing up, and Liz thinks the fox is using a relic to summon them, but they see a horde of monsters running from a land dragon. Luke wants to cut them down, but Citri tells him to only kill the dragon, since Cry told the others that dragons would stop showing up. Kachaka wonders why the dragons he's summoned haven't appeared yet, and he realizes that Cry isn't with them, but the knights see the horde of monsters approaching, so they prepare to fight. Cry returns with Carpi, but he realizes that the knights have already defeated the monsters, and Franz asks him where he's been. But a knight tells him about a dragon they found, and they realize that it was killed by high-level ice magic. Cry knows that Lucia was the one who took care of it, and Franz asks him why he thinks they keep running into dragons, but he tells Franz not to worry about it. He notes that they can find dragons' remains anywhere, and Franz tells him it isn't true, but as they continue their journey, they continue to find more dragon bodies. They reach a town, where the Emperor tells Franz that their enemies know their plan, so there's a chance that they have a spy in their group, but he knows that it isn't Cry. Chris and Cry are ordered to guard the Emperor directly, and she tells him she's done charging his item, but he gives her his other relics. She can't believe she needs to charge them again, and asks him what he used them for, but he refuses to tell her, and notes that he has something important to do the next day. After that, Telm talks to Kachaka, and notes that he thinks Cry is a member of the Fox, but he needs Kachaka's help to confirm his suspicions. Kachaka appears to be worried, but Telm tells him it will be easy, since they'll just use the password to catch him. We see Cry shopping with Chris, while Kachaka watches his every move, and we learn that the members of his criminal syndicate are divided into 9 ranks, which are symbolized by the fox's 9 tails. The lower-ranked members can't access information about their superiors, and since Kachaka doesn't know about Cry, he thinks Cry must be a high-ranking member. Chris takes peanuts from their shopping bag and starts eating them, but he tells her they're a special kind of nut, which interfere with her magic once they're eaten. Telm tells him he wants to talk to him, so they sit together in Telm's room, where he asks Cry if he has a tail. He's surprised hearing this, since he never told anyone that he received a tail from the fox god, but we learn that he used it to charge up instead of taking it home. He tells Telm and Kachaka not to tell anyone about it, and Telm wants to see his tail, but he notes that he can't do it right now. Kachaka realizes that he said the password, so he thinks Cry really is a member of the Fox, and Telm reveals that he's a 7th tail, while Kachaka is a 5th tail. He asks Cry about his rank, so he reveals that it's the 13th tail, but Telm thinks it's impossible, since there are only 9 tails in the Fox. So Cry explains that a new tail grows whenever enough power builds up, and he notes that since they're all tail holders, they should work together as a team. After that, Cry returns to his room, where Liz suddenly hugs him, telling him she came since she wanted to see him. But Chris suddenly appears, so Cry hides Liz under his blanket, and Chris tells him to take responsibility for the nut that she ate. He tells her not to worry, since her magic will be back to normal after she goes to sleep, but she tells him that there's something behind him. He pretends that she saw a creature only the pure-hearted can see, and Liz gets away through the window, as Cry tells Chris that she saw a ghost. Kachaka and Telm join them in the room, so she tells them she saw a suspicious person jump out of the window, and she doesn't think it was a ghost. But Telm tells her that ghosts exist, and Cry is glad that they're playing along with his story. She thinks they're ridiculous and decides to leave, but Cry tells Kachaka and Telm that they're in it together, so they become friends. Cry has tea with everyone, and he tells the Emperor about the time that the Barrel Bandit gang turned into frogs, but he notes that they all returned to normal after the incident. The Emperor thinks Cry was the one who did it, and he tells him to show everyone the spell, so he pretends to turn Chris into a frog. But it actually works, so he thinks he has awakened his magic abilities, and he realizes that everyone except Kachaka and Telm turned into frogs. He remembers how to turn them back to normal, but Chris screams as he kills her, and she asks him what he was thinking. Franz apologizes for killing the Emperor and Marina to reverse the spell, but he explains that it's okay, since he ordered Cry to use his magic. After that, Chris is angry since Cry turned her into a frog, so he offers to turn her water into orange juice as an apology. But Lucia tells him to stop promising impossible things, and he wonders how he can hear her voice. After Chris leaves the room, Kachaka and Telm visit Cry, and they ask him what he was thinking, since they had their chance when he turned everyone into frogs. But he has no idea what they're talking about, and he thinks they meant it was easier to guard the Emperor while he was a frog, so he tells them it wasn't a good idea. He mentions that they'll be taking off soon, so Telm thinks he wants to kill the Emperor without leaving any evidence, so he notes that they'll handle everything at the right moment. The group reaches a port, where they see an advanced airship called the Black Star, and Telm notes that it's impossible to shoot it down from the outside. Cry tells Franz that he needs 3 days to prepare, since he wants to learn how to ride Carpi, and Franz notes that they can't afford to delay their trip. But the Emperor tells him they need to rest for a few days, since Marina is exhausted, so Franz realizes that they don't have a choice. Citri uses Killiam to hear what's happening, and she tells her friends that the trip has been delayed, so it's time to make preparations. We see Cry fighting Carpi, and Chris notes that it won't let a human ride it, but he's determined to become its master. He tells her to charge his relics so that he can continue the fight, but he still struggles to defeat it, and she becomes exhausted. So he tells Kachaka to take over, but he just stares at him, so Cry realizes that Kachaka can't understand him. His friends arrive disguised as ghosts, and he thanks them for coming, but Citri falls on Chris, who passes out. He tells Lucia to charge his relics, but Kachaka doesn't understand what's happening, so he decides to leave. Cry calls out to him, but he doesn't respond, so he thinks that Kachaka must not understand that language. He thinks he needs to learn how to communicate with him, and he comes up with an idea, so he tells his friends about it. At night, Chris wakes up in her room, and Cry tells her she collapsed because she ran out of magic energy. But she asks him about the ghosts, and notes that she saw Citri inside one of them, so he tells her she was just dreaming. She doesn't believe him, and she wonders what he's up to, but Telm suddenly joins them, and he thinks they're having an intimate moment. So he apologizes for interrupting them, and she tries to explain that it's not the case, but he just tells them to lock the door next time. She runs after him to clear the misunderstanding, but Cry thinks Telm is amazing, since he always has his back. 3 days later, Cry realizes that Citri has already prepared everything, but Franz asks him why he brought supplies, since they already have everything they need. He explains that they might need more if something goes wrong, but Franz becomes angry, and tells him that the Black Star will never crash. Liz and Tino arrive, and they give him the items he needs, so he tells everyone he's ready to go. The Black Star takes off, and Chris asks Cry about his staff, so he reveals that it's a relic that can translate every language in the world. He uses it to talk to Kachaka, but he just backs away, so Cry gives the staff to Chris, thinking it's useless since it couldn't translate Kachaka's words. It suddenly starts raining, but Chris wonders why Carpi has a companion, so Cry explains that he asked the ghosts to set it up, since it might fix Carpi's mood. They see the ghosts holding onto a kite, and Chris thinks they're impressive, but they suddenly get struck by lightning, so she wonders if they're okay. Telm thinks everything is going according to Cry's plan, and he notes that they'll pass through the storm shortly, so it's almost time to make their move. Franz notes that they were able to survive the storm, but he wonders why they're still stuck in the dark clouds, and the fox suddenly appears behind the Emperor. He takes out his sword to defend himself, and the knights surround the fox, while Cry tells Killiam to help them, but it suddenly falls to its knees. Telm and Kachaka arrive, and the knights suddenly start to feel strange, as Chris realizes that they're under a spell. Telm notes that everything went according to Cry's plan, and he recalls the fox, but Chris wonders what's happening, so he realizes that she still isn't on their side. He tells her to stay back if she doesn't want to get hurt, and everyone can't believe that Cry is a traitor, but he notes that he isn't a member of the Fox. Telm thinks he's joking, but Cry finally realizes that the Fox isn't what he was thinking about, and that they're the syndicate who are trying to kill the Emperor, so he wonders how he's supposed to deal with the situation. He tells them that he can't be a fox since he's a human, so Telm wonders how he knew their password, but he has no idea what he's talking about. Telm prepares to attack him, so Cry threatens to turn him into a frog. He orders Killiam to capture Telm and Kachaka, but he doesn't respond, and we see that Kachaka has his remote. He activates Killiam and orders him to attack Cry, but he suddenly collapses, and Cry realizes that he forgot to feed him. Telm attacks Cry with his magic, and he pretends it had no effect, telling Telm to just give up, but there's suddenly an explosion, as Telm notes that the ship's engine has been destroyed, so it's going to crash. Cry thinks it's lucky that he practiced flying with Carpy, and Chris tries to fight with her staff, but it just absorbs her magic, as Cry explains that it's only for interpreting, and Telm prepares to wipe them out with his magic. Meanwhile, we see Cry's friends outside, where Luke wants to get closer to the ship, but Lucia notes that it's hard to control their kite, and Citri realizes that they're passing through a mana storm. Telm's magic doesn't work, because the storm is interfering with his magic, and he thinks it's another one of Cry's tricks. Cry tells him to give up, and Kachaka suggests that they retreat and wait for the storm to pass, and for the dragon he summoned to appear. Chris wants to go after them, but Cry notes that their priority is to make sure everyone is safe. He tells her to use the extra supplies and potions that he packed, but he's most surprised that Kachaka could speak normally. Everyone is able to recover, but Franz wonders what they should do next, since they can't control the ship anymore. Cry feeds Killiam some meat, but it suddenly disappears, and Cry sees one of the real foxes eating it. The ship suddenly goes through an incredibly dense mana, making everyone struggle to even stand, and Cry realizes that it's the same as when he entered the Peregrine Lodge. The girl welcomes him, suddenly asking him for some ice cream, but Chris uses her staff to interpret her words, and realizes that she's actually threatening Cry. The girl tells him she's a fan, wanting to shake his hand, but Chris realizes that she actually wants to fight him, planning to kill him with a single hit, but he's protected by his rings, and the girl suddenly disappears. The Emperor asks Cry if he knows where they are, so he tells them about the Peregrine Lodge, and they can't believe they're in a level 10 treasure vault. Cry notes that the only way they can get out is by negotiating with the boss, and he thinks that it's up to him, since he's the only one that can move, but he really thinks it's because of how weak he is, that he isn't affected by the dense mana. Chris forces herself to move to go with him, and they appear at a shrine. The girl appears once again, asking for a fried tofu pocket, but when Cry mentions that he doesn't have any, she unleashes her power, but Cry is protected by his rings. The girl falls to her knees, and Cry remembers his previous encounter with her, where he gave her a fried tofu pocket, and made her promise not to attack him again. They are suddenly surrounded by even more girls, but a man appears, and tells them not to be afraid. He's surprised to see Cry again, recognizing him as the boy who can't sense danger. He thinks it should have been impossible to meet again, since they even moved their vault into the sky to avoid him. He takes Cry to his mother, the fox god, but as he opens the door, Chris falls to her knees from the dense mana. She wonders how Cry can stand, but he tells her not to worry, and he heads inside. Cry thinks about how it's not that he isn't afraid, but since he's always been so weak, it doesn't matter to him if he's in a level 1 vault, or if it's level 10 where he's facing a god, because he's afraid of them equally, so he's actually able to feel relaxed. The fox god appears, asking him how he dares to face her again, so he prepares to use his ultimate technique. Meanwhile, the grieving souls realize they can't get into the Peregrine Lodge to help Cry, and Tino sees that a giant dragon is approaching. Cry uses his begging technique to ask the fox to let them go, and it doesn't work at first, even making the fox angry, but as he tries to convince her, she finds him so annoying that she decides to just let them go. He comes out of the room with her tail, so the man realizes he defeated his mother, but Cry isn't sure what happened. The man tells them that in order to release them, they must pay a price, and he asks Chris for what she treasures the most. The dragon lands on the ship, and we see that it has 5 heads, but Citri thinks it's fine since there are 5 of them. She throws a potion to take out one of the heads, and they each use their attacks to destroy the heads. Tino is amazed seeing them fight, but there's one more head that appears, and Liz tells Tino to handle it. She thinks it's too big, but the others believe in her, so she charges in. She can't jump high enough, but Liz appears to give her a hand, and she destroys the head with her transformation. Meanwhile, the man tells Chris she can't trade and cry even if she treasures him the most, so she becomes embarrassed and says that she doesn't care about him, but the man mentions that he can read her mind. He makes an exception and decides to take what Cry treasures the most instead, but he asks what would happen if Chris was what he treasures the most, so the man mentions that he would admit defeat and just let them go. Cry thinks that Chris is the most important thing to him in their situation, but after the man reads his mind, he sees that Carpy is the thing he treasures the most, and Chris is shocked hearing this. The ship is released from the Peregrine Lodge, and Cry returns to Franz and the Emperor, who are impressed that he got them out so easily. He notes that there was a price, but we see that he tricked the man with his other carpet, and he promises to get Carpy another friend. They realize that the ship is still crashing, and we see Lucia outside using her magic to slow them down. Cry stays relaxed since there's nothing he can do, and he just prays to Lucia to save them. She uses the fox's tail for emergency power, and she uses it to enlarge Ansem so he can catch the ship. After that, we see that Telm and Kachaka were left in the Peregrine Lodge, and Cry goes to check up on his friends. He sees that Lucia still has her tail, and Citri notes that it won't go away until she has given back the mana that she used, so she blames him for her condition. They hear a sound coming from a box of tofu pockets, but Cry pretends not to see the fox girl, and Chris is still depressed that Cry considered Carpy more important than her. We see Cry as a fortune teller tells him that he needs to quit as a hunter, since he has no talent and only has misfortune in his future. He wonders how Cry is even alive, but he sees that even though Cry has the worst fortune, he has incredible luck with his relationships, so everyone is drawn to him, and he's blessed with a lot of good friends. Cry thinks about how he would like nothing more than to retire, but as he sees his friends, he decides to keep going a while longer so that he can stay with them. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.